All right, so welcome to the 5x5 podcast. Today I am your host, Low Spice of Ice, aka Ice. I'm here today with my boy MP Complete 34 and my friend J Flight 31. You guys have anything to say?
For the audience,
To
yeah,
the
for the
audience
audience, you
here.
guys can remove the numbers. We're big time now. We don't need the numbers anymore.
J Flight?
Yeah. All I'd say is follow me on Twitter, jfly_31. Sometimes I'll live tweet Knicks games. I'm trying to prevent watching them for a little bit until they pick it up. But besides that, like I said, basketball. I started watching basketball when I was around like 10, 11. And I didn't really start following the team until I don't know. I didn't really start following the team until maybe I was like 12. The player that really made me love basketball, I'd say, was Tim Duncan. Just like how he carried himself, how he played, stuff like that. I've always wanted to play like him, but obviously never got there. Because of my height, I'm only 6 foot. Like, there's no way I'm doing what he's doing. But yeah, I would say Tim Duncan was probably the reason that got me into basketball.
Learning all kinds of new things about you, man.
Yeah, right? Like Tim Duncan inspiring people to play basketball. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Tim Duncan's a good role model for sure.
Yeah, I'm your host, Ice, again. I'm just here to talk shit and talk sports, bro. Anything I say here, don't take it too seriously. We're here to have a good time.
You can't start a debate off and say don't take things I say too seriously.
I mean, like for the hot takes section.
No, I feel you.
I was gonna, I think a lot of podcasts are just kind of like exaggerated. Like, obviously, like they believe what they believe, but
Sometimes you gotta go a little harder to make your point.
Yeah, you gotta really drive it in on, like, when you're talking like out loud. Now that, like, I think about it, yeah, you're gonna have to really drive that shit home.
Yeah.
All right. So our first topic today is the draft. Let me get the spreadsheet real quick.
Oh yeah, pull that up. Yeah. Just so they know what we're doing.
Yeah, so we're gonna start off with the draft. General draft philosophy. Should teams go for the best available player, or go for the player that fits the team the most?
So you're posing that to us?
Yeah.
JFL, you go ahead, go first.
So whether I would choose best player available or what fits the team?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question. So I would say best player available, especially in the higher region. Most teams in the higher, like in the lottery, don't have what's the word? They don't have really a foundation yet, or they just don't know what they're doing. Like, we've seen teams completely blow up their roster the year before and then get like a top 3 pick and just kind of pick the best player. Like Chet's probably going first, and that's probably who the Magic are going to ride with. Or let's say the top 20 pick, like you have like a 20-25 pick. Like for the Celtics, they just made the finals. They're probably just going to pick whatever they need, whatever that is. We'll probably end up discussing what that is, but just whatever it is, really.
So, JFL, I want to put you on the spot, all right? So, the Knicks got the first overall pick. Are you going to take into account fit there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to get into that a little bit later with the whole point guard versus Quickly scenario. But I would say
this is like top of the top. So you got your star players, right? Julius Randle, one of the best players in the NBA, right? And then you got RJ Barrett, probably the second best player in the NBA, right? Are you gonna draft? So if you had the draft like last year or this year, and you have someone like Paolo, right? Who, especially with the Knicks, right? They normally play a big plus Julius, and then you have the bunch of wing guards type. But would you take into account like your current roster? And let's say even like Julius Randle, I think has like 3 years left on his deal. So does that matter to you
Well,
as a
I'm
GM
thinking.
maybe?
Well, personally, I think that there's going to be a scenario middle of the season where Julius Randle is traded. That's just me personally. But let's say for example he doesn't get traded. They're like the Leon Rose is just we're not trading him at all, no matter what. Then to me that changes a lot because you have to think about play style, how Randall plays, how RJ Barrett plays, and then you gotta figure that out through the draft and kind of like you kind of just have to have a mental mentally break down your depth chart. So like I'm gonna talk about with how Quickly is, how Derrick Rose is. Like those are your guards on your roster right now. That's your one. That's your one guard, and that's your two guard, depending on who's starting at the beginning of the season. That's just decisions they're gonna have to make. Like RJ Barrett probably should play the 3, but are they gonna draft someone with a little bit more height so RJ can play the 2, or are they gonna Cam Reddish is a good example too. Cam Reddish, are they gonna keep Cam Reddish? Like, are they gonna how do I say this? Are they gonna focus on the draft through the point of we're keeping Randall? Are we getting rid of Randall? Is Mitchell Robinson leaving? Is he staying? How confident are we in Quickly? It all depends on what they're gonna like. There's so much to go with that goes into just talking about the draft for each team. For the Knicks, it's like, is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? Are we keeping Mitchell? Are we losing Randall? Like it's just all up in the air.
So you're saying
Makes
the
sense.
draft has to be more a definitive decision when it comes to predicting the future. So if you
Yeah.
were
Right.
to, if you were,
That's a good way to put it, Ice. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
so yeah, if you were trying to build for the future, you would probably get like Paolo. But like if you needed um like more rim protection or like a bigger guard, you would go and draft that guard to fit the current team instead of
Yeah.
going for the future.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think the core to that is just like you just said, definitive decisions of path A or path B, and so I think it's interesting. I think I view this a little bit different than you, J Flight. Of I think there's maybe like 6 teams or something like that in the NBA that I think outright can say like I can draft for fit, and I think everybody else has to just take the best player that they view available, and that can mean couple different things to different people. But like for the Knicks, I literally don't. Can we curse?
Yeah, we can curse. Go ahead.
Okay, like I do not give a fuck who's on the Knicks roster because this team, I've said this even though they're a 4 seed, they don't have any good like really good players, and like truly good players. Like I would say like they don't have like a top borderline 50 guy on their team. And so like I could care less who's on their team. Like I'm not thinking about Derrick Rose. I'm not thinking about it like Mr. Robinson. Like especially bigs like that. I could care less about like the like rim rolling type bigs. They don't really have even a shot creator. Alec Burks is taking like a majority of the usage. Um, Julius Randle, like you, if he wants to stay on the team, I don't think the team should be building in with him in mind, unless they really believe in him. Which is like Ice was saying, you kind of if you're gonna believe in Julius Randle, then I want you to say definitively I'm going to, and then make decisions that go accordingly to that. So I think that like maybe like there's a maybe Phoenix, Boston, the Nets, Philly. I think pretty much everybody else, the Warriors, everybody else should be. Those are the only teams that can maybe draft for fit. Everybody else should just be trying to take the best player because easily from year to year you can end up being the 9 seed or the 4 seed depending on all the luck things, health, all that kind of stuff. So and you clearly don't have like a player that can power you to like consistently a top 3 seed. Clippers is another one. Lakers, I guess too. They don't really have a choice, but so yeah, that's kind of just how I view it.
So you agree more to Jake's point where the Knicks need a whole new team, so they just need to get the best
Yes.
player who can actually help them, even like just long term, have a certain set of skills, can be able to create their own shot, depending like the position, obviously, and be able to
Yeah.
defend a little bit.
I mean, I agree.
No, I mean I don't even need all the things you described. I need So the Knicks need so many things that I don't really necessarily even care what they take, but the point is that they need to take the best potential for. I mean, ideally, you want like the main superstar type of dude who's like a high usage or whatever. But like and that's not always available in every draft. Let's say you have like the fifth pick in this draft, right? Like it's hard to just get that guy at the fifth pick because there's not. I wouldn't say there's. I don't really view this draft as too many like high usage, like primary ball handler type of dudes, even like shot creators, that kind of thing. Anybody you're trying to get in that draft, aside from the type that's people in the top five, are going to be like more or less crapshoots. And so I'm okay with taking a role guy, but like things like I literally do not. If the role guy intersects with R.J. Barrett or any of these guys that Jay Flay was talking about, I don't care. Like, and obviously this also goes to the thing that also Jay Flay was saying of like the coaches got to know this as well. Like you can't have a coach who's just, Alec Burks, I'm playing you 14 minutes and you're gonna die. Rose was playing that, and then you got just like you got all these dudes just chilling on the bench and just not developing or anything like that. So that's probably maybe an interesting discussion about coaching discussions. But yeah, I think they need a completely new team. I'm not really saying it has to be a specific type of player, but more so just saying that I really could care less what's on their team now. Just do it over because nobody on their team is going to be there for the long run.
You think the Knicks should go for Fred VanVleet as we suggested?
So, sorry.
Sure. I mean, not really, but like I don't know. I don't think they should be win now at all. They don't have any good players, dude. Like in order to get win now, I don't even understand what they'd have to do. Like it's just not worth even thinking about because the team just has no talent. Like Alec Burks, this is not an exaggeration. Alec Burks barely makes the Warriors roster, gets traded just for nothing to Philly, just gets signed, and he is their main scoring option. Julius Randle is like the most inefficient ISO player ever. And like these aren't players. Like I was actually pretty impressed with RJ, but like I still don't view him as he's like a third, fourth type of guy maybe. I don't view him as like a 1 or 2, 3 type of dude. So I could care less who's on the team. And this is also why you draft wing because RJ doesn't really matter who you put around him because I think he'll figure it out. Like he could pretty much play like 2 through 4, and it's kind of figure it out at that point.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, but I agree, but I also disagree. I feel like, and I know you're gonna be like kind of annoyed with me saying this, but I feel like a key piece of there's like blowing up the team. Like I feel like we always blow up the team. Like we never have a team. Like
The
we
Knicks
always
specifically?
what?
You're talking about the Knicks specifically?
Yeah, like there's always. I know I hate talking about the Knicks like all this much, especially on like a basketball podcast, but like blowing up a team every year,
Is that what
eventually,
you've done
like
though?
that's the joke. Like that's the joke with the Knicks is it's like they suck, they always suck, and they never have a steady roster. So my argument is you have to kind of ride it out because if you keep redoing the roster and redoing the roster, like when Melo's last couple years, it felt like we had like the roster was completely blown up almost every time. And now that even now that he's gone, the roster's every time it's a new player, new players, new players every time, a new 15 every time. I feel like this is the first time, like we've actually had like not a core because it's not a core. Like it's not. They're like you said, they're not good enough to be like a core. But it's like
young players that you're nurturing into a system and playing together and growing as a team. You win and lose together. You learn, go to the next year. Yeah, I get what you mean for sure with that.
Yeah.
So I would say that. So maybe this goes to maybe we should maybe discuss this a little bit more. But like I don't view the Knicks as really have. I think the Porzingis one was kind of blowing it up, but like I would say like the problem with them has been that they haven't blown it up, and it's kind of like this like half thing that you end up with like this, and then add on to that the additional like the coach disagreeing with maybe general manager And so cause I don't think they have blown it up really. And I just think that they've done such a poor. Well, actually, don't.
They definitely blown it up. Like drafting or getting 4 power forwards in free agency is definitely trying to blow it up.
Yeah,
Just
sure. But that just shows me that they're like currently in like a talent accumulation, right? They're trying to just grab anybody who works and just. But then like they had a weirdly competitive year, and then now they don't like they're still in blow it up mode, but they didn't view themselves in blow it up mode.
see,
So then they tried to win a little bit too much last year, and I don't know. I don't view them like that.
No, yeah,
I agree with
I
that point completely. I think they are like the Pacers. They're kind of just like mid tier. Like they get draft picks, but the draft picks aren't high enough because they're too good. But they're not good enough to make the playoffs or the play-in. So
Well,
they're just in this they're just in this weird spot.
dude,
But
the
with the
Pacers, yeah, the Pacers were able to flip Sabonis into Halliburton, like a young player who's good and picks, and so like it was a player who's like mid tier, actually very similar to Julius Randle, like a lower end All Star. They flipped for real assets where they probably could have done that with Randle. I don't know what you could have gotten for Randle, but probably in the past they've been a little bit more like that. But I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry,
that trade
continue.
was
I didn't.
that trade was a scam. It doesn't count. The Kings don't have brains. The Kings are stupid, but the Pacers are smart for taking advantage of it.
Yeah. And like yeah, and I also think I agree with you, Jay. I was like they need to like have like a little bit of continuity from team to team, but like I think the time for continuity isn't right this minute because they don't have anything that I'd want to be continuous with. Like I think it's like once you get one of these one of these top picks, let's say if you have the top pick, then that's the point where next year you don't do anything too drastic. You let the team grow. Because like the thing is, like quickly doesn't matter if you don't have that main guy. Like quickly gets a lot better when you have that a main guy around him. If you're telling quickly to like just be this like weird piece to like this so-so team, then it's like he's not gonna be the best he can. He's a role player at heart. So it's like all these guys that are on the Knicks are gonna be better if they have like a better structure to them.
They have
And so you got to
continuity
find
too.
value where it is.
Jay Flight, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I agree. I feel like him explaining it a little bit more was like made me agree a little bit more. I think they should kind of. I feel like they should ride RJ Barrett a little bit more. I mean, to like a certain extent, but also try and get like better players with him. Like, it's gonna be tough because they're gonna pay him. Like, they're gonna pay him.
Yeah.
Like, so that's probably where that's probably where they're gonna mess up. But I mean, like I said, it's a road. Like this is like the Knicks are a winding road. Like
So
they always be a winding road because they're the Knicks. So
right,
Okay.
to your point, actually, you could view this exact same conversation, except like 3 years prior, right? So, I think Porzingis was traded. They had Barrett same time they had Porzingis, right, for a little bit, or no?
yeah, but Porzingis didn't play.
Okay, right. So that was so that they haven't gotten. They don't really even know exactly what they have in RJ Barrett after 3 years of being like a pretty mediocre team, honestly. And the 4 seed was very anomalous to me. But like, and that's the issue here is that what I'm describing they should have done before, and because they haven't done it, now they're in a position where they kind of need to know what they got, and I think at this point we kind of do know a little bit, but we don't like. If you wanted to know what RJ could do, you should have done that at this point. Like, and it's nice that he's at least a player, like I was saying, who's flexible enough to. I think he can figure it out with pretty much anybody around him. But this Randall, Mitch Robinson, I don't care. Like quickly, don't care. Like all these dudes are like supplementary players. You still got to figure out like who's the core of this, and you don't really have one. Like the center, like you have a bunch of like maybe planets, but you don't got the sun right now, and there's nothing to revolve around. And so I think that's the thing that I think they need a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if you are so just in general, what do you prioritize when it comes to drafting players? Would you want a primary shot creator? Would you want 3-and-D wings as the league is leaning towards that with the 5-out spacing? Would you want to get a shot blocking big or a big outside big, or just a point guard? Scotty Barnes All-Star next year for sure.
Uh,
Yeah,
you
go
want
ahead.
to start?
The solar system reference, MP's in his fucking
Yeah,
back.
actually, yeah, I'll start.
Facts.
I'll start. So So I think that it depends, I guess, on the context of everything. I almost want to view this as like, you start with like 12 empty spots and you don't have an entire roster. What would you want on your team? And I think that you would view it very similarly. I think because ultimately you're drafting for team success. Teams really can't success without like an offensive engine to it. Uh, there's a couple ways, I guess, to do that, but you generally do need like a primary creator. So I'm gonna view this as if it's like a team with like no real core to it, like they're kind of building from scratch. Um, because like if you obviously like if you have some of these other things, then you might be open to drafting a lower priority type role. But overall, I think the biggest thing you need is a primary creator. That could be in a lot of different forms. I think Powell is a great example of a unique type of player like that. I think we normally think of players who are like smaller wings, like 6'5", maybe 6'8". LeBron's obviously the a bigger example of that, but they are bigger players, potentially guards they take a lot of usage on offense. They um, hopefully do something on defense, but not necessarily. Because offense is so important. You're willing to compromise that. Ideally, you have a two-way guy, but you got the guys like Paul George, Kawhi, Steph. Obviously, like you need like LeBron, John Morant, players like that, Zion even, that you can really run a lot of your offense through. So that's probably the major thing. And you're trying, there's a lot of ways you could look at it as like when you're drafting. Maybe they're not that yet, but they have the potential to be that because they have a bunch of these very skill sets, or we can teach him this, we can teach him that. And that's definitely the hardest thing to find. It's the draft is the easiest place to find it. It's not an easy thing to find at all, but like it's harder to get, for just some random team to get that player without just getting it through the draft.
So
So yeah, go ahead.
what's the easiest skill do you think is like that's easy to develop for like
Uh,
just for like a raw prospect? What do you think is the first thing they should learn once they get into the league?
so actually maybe I'll counter that, but maybe just saying I think the most difficult one is like passing, playmaking feel.
Yeah, being able to read the
Uh,
floor is hard.
yeah, reading the floor and like not even just reading it, but like really processing it and processing it quick and being maybe even adaptable. Like those things are like really difficult. Like I think the best example I could think of that is maybe like Russell Westbrook. And you can say whatever you want. I'm not really talking about Russell Westbrook right now as the player. I'm talking about like the draft prospect Russell Westbrook. That dude was just like
You
a
know me.
nuclear athlete.
It's
We
my
weren't
duty
even really
to
sure
please
he
that
like
booty.
could process on that level.
Finish
And he
up.
ends up turning to
Go.
you could say whatever you want about him. He was a very good playmaker. I'm a Thunder fan, by the way. I should have said that maybe as part of my introduction, but he turned into a like skip pass reads, hits a real man, creative passer, like on a passing like a general feel that you didn't see that come. And I'd say that generally is very rare. You won't draft a player like Dennis Smith Jr. and expect him to just all of a sudden be able to play make like on that level. So and that also being said, shooting is probably the easiest skill overall in the sense that a lot of that is just like physics, mechanics, and your biomechanical movements, energy transferring, that type of thing. So it's easier to maybe modify like Lonzo Ball. There's lots of players like that you can get with a good shooting coach, and maybe they can just get better. And I think a lot of it is also like a mental game too. Like that's one part that sometimes like you gotta just overcome that. But a lot of these dudes are pretty confident. So if you have the confidence and willingness to take it and miss it, and then someone to work with you to improve the mechanical stuff, I think it's definitely easier to get it to become a better shooter. Probably ball handling is probably the next one. There's a bunch of stuff that you also can't teach, like the lateral quickness, just athleticism. You can improve like conditioning and strength and things like that. But so one you can improve is strength and just like defending in the post, that type of thing, you can do really well. So if a dude's really skinny, I'll more so look at their frame, their like shoulder width, that type of thing. Like, could their frame carry additional weight? Because you can, as long as they're a hard worker, that type of thing, you can always gain the weight. Um, and I think ball handling for guards is also, but you still have to have the feel, right? So you can't be like a zero feel guy who just develops a handle, because handle is a very adaptive thing. Like you got to react to the defense and what your offense is doing and stuff like that. So it involves a little bit of creativity. So, but the actual ball handling moves, I think you can, if you have a good feel, you can add moves pretty easily too. So that's probably those are my answers generally. Probably.
All right, for me personally, if I were to draft a certain type of player, it's probably gonna be like a 3 and D wing,
Hmm.
specifically around like 6, 7 ish, and then I would try to develop like his shot creating. I think that's probably what I think that's one of the more easier things to develop instead of that's not standstill shooting. Because if you're able to like defend, right, you can win a championship. You can be able to switch and shit like that. And the best thing is like you can't teach height, so you can have a whole bunch of 6, 7s and probably win a couple of like regular season games. You can't win a championship like that. Just being able to get a stop and know what type of defender you need to stop is key. And for the shot creation, I feel like it's just like every team needs it. Just like at the end of the game, every playoffs, you just need to find a way to just get a bucket, just get a simple,
Hmm.
either contested midi or find a way to get to the free throw line creatively. Have a floater in your game. I think that's key. Like having a midi and a floater is so key today. There's there's so many players. I feel like if they just had like a floater, they'll be to another tier. I.e. Paul George and John Moran. I mean, John Moran has a floater, but he needs more of a midi to be a better player.
Paul George is a good one though. He doesn't really take. He only takes like those fading long middies. He doesn't take like the DeMar DeRozan like 10 feet from the hoop type of middies. So
Yeah,
that's a good one.
yeah. So I feel like if they learned and developed those type of shots, they'll make their team better. That's the easy extra 6 points. I mean,
Yeah.
they're two different players, but yeah,
No, 3 and D wings is a good one because the other thing about that is that so first of all they're versatile players. So they play defense, they shoot. Those are always going to be valuable skills, no matter what area you're going to play in. Those are always going to be valuable. Obviously, post 3 point line. And the other thing, like you were just saying, is that if that's the starting point and they have a general feel for the game, there's a chance that they develop into something more. And then what do you have then? You have like this three, like defensive, offensive shot creator, and that could be like an all NBA type of player.
two-way shot creator,
And
man.
yeah, and worst case scenario, you have a player that will fit around that guy that you end up having, later on. And the other thing is that you could see even like at the trade deadlines what some of these players get traded for. So they just have value that like any good team needs that. So even if you're not that good team, you having a player like that is valuable. Um, Someone who can switch, like you were saying, has some versatility, offensively, defensively, but even just being able to shoot, have a little bit of off the dribble creation, that type of thing, would be nice. I don't really value bigs a ton. Stretch bigs though, like if you're a legitimately shooting stretch big, I value that a lot. Because you can even again, like you can see in the playoffs, like how that changes the whole floor. Like you can see the Mavs this year, Clippers every year. Dude, that team's nuts. Um, just the amount of shooting that they have on the floor, and they just devastate you, and they make the other rim protector come out to
Celtics too.
guard you. Celtics, Horford at center, Grant Williams, that really killed the Bucks this year. So I value stretch bigs a lot, and if you can somehow be that, while also, if you can be maybe not Mike Muscala, but like, Al Horford is like a really well-rounded big, and that's probably even a little too much to ask for. But like a couple of years ago, there was a player, Jalen Smith, who was in the Wiseman draft, and I had him above James Wiseman on my board. And for all these reasons that we're talking about, he's a good rim protector, and he shot similar to like the Miles Turner type of archetype. I value that type a lot. And I don't really value like what James Wiseman does necessarily. Like the not a lot of feel, athletic, rim running, rim defending, big. I don't really value that a lot.
What was the first player you compared him to?
Who?
James Wiseman.
Oh man. I don't even remember. I'd have to go look. Hold on, I'll pull up the big board. I don't remember.
That's like back in archives. That was like last year. No, wait, that was
Because I
I
don't
don't think
think
I compared him to anybody.
I don't think the Warriors picking Wiseman was like necessarily wrong. Because that gives
I
them.
think that was wrong. I think that was. I think that was awful.
That's crazy.
Well, what? So let me ask you this: they pick LaMelo Ball. What's his role?
Sean Livingston.
Sean Livingston.
Mm-hmm.
See, like,
Whoa!
I think that.
No, nah.
I think that hurts.
Like Andre Iguodala, Sean Lee, like them particularly,
Right?
they've shown that they don't need the center.
Yeah.
And so like what they need is like dynamic playmaking, and then you add on he's 6'7", has some pick and roll potential to take some pressure off Steph. He can pretty much play like 1 through 4. They don't really care about the lineup so much. Like, and if you can get him to come around on defense, I think that's just a much better like player. Like where Wiseman, I feel like if you told me that the Warriors need a center, Kevon Looney is even before I even knew Kevon Looney is the type of person I would say they need, of like the really good feel, has good feel for the game, not necessarily like
Jacob, thanks for the follow, brother.
super
Appreciate
athletic or whatever, but just fundamentally sound, can play next to Draymond. Ideally, you could maybe get more, like a shooting big or something like that. That would be great. But like, I don't think you need all like, especially like some of these complex things that the Warriors do. Like, you can't just throw James Wiseman and expect him to like he gets the rebound and he sees Steph. He doesn't view it as like, oh, Steph's gonna run to the corner I'm in now, and I can just screen it off, and then he'll just be able to shoot behind me. He just doesn't view things like that, and I don't really think you need that. I think especially like LaMelo can rebound really well. He's just I think he at worst could be like it's the starting point. He could be the Sean Livingston stuff and then grow into something more.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I viewed it at the time.
You still think that?
Yeah, definitely still think that.
I 1,010%.
So the reason why I think Wiseman makes more sense is because I just think like LaMelo in the Sean Livingston role, I feel like he's better than that.
He's
obviously,
extremely.
but
yes, he is. He is.
Like, he's not making an all-star team on the Warriors. Like, actually, yeah, he's not making an all-star team on the Warriors if it's him. Yeah. Why would you want to?
Wait, is this about him or is this about the team?
I'm sorry to talk about him, but for the team, I still think Wiseman's the better. I think Wiseman is the fit you need, because down the stretch in the playoffs, you can run like a big lineup with Looney and Wiseman, and maybe Dre, if you want that so much.
Looney Wiseman.
I will say the future of the Warriors, if they got LaMelo, would be insane. Because Looney is only what? How old is Looney? He's not that old. He's
26.
He's 26.
Plays like he's 42, but he's 26.
Yeah, something. So, but anyway, like LaMelo, Poole, would they have gotten Moody and probably Moody?
Yeah, Poole's another great example, right? He pretty much replaced Poole with LaMelo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a better team.
I mean,
but they got Poole for
right, but
like the 20-something pick though. They got him really low.
Right, the Wiseman draft, like Poole wasn't even in their radar because they drafted him, but he was so bad at the time that you're not viewing him. But like the point is like this like third playmaking like well-rounded guard, and you could argue exactly how good he would be at that. But the other thing is it's long-term insurance, for Steph's already 34. At the time he was 32. You don't know exactly how he's going to age. At that time, Clay is hurt, so it's you're building a little bit for the future, but you're also like he fits like his feel and stuff. The way he plays is very Warriorsy, just generally. And on top of that, I just don't think they've ever needed a center like Jordan Bell in the second round, JaVale McGee. Like these are dudes who are like,
That's a
and
big. JaVale McGee's a 7-footer.
No, I'm not saying they don't need a big. I'm saying you don't use the second pick on James Wiseman.
Well, I would argue and say there are times where they definitely didn't need a big. Like they don't need a big at like the way they
won that won the fucking championship.
No, I know, but I'm saying like for future reference, like or past reference, like they never needed a big. Like the way they used Draymond, and then like I don't know the way they used Draymond, and then the way they used we just talked about him, Livingston.
Yeah,
like it was almost like they never
Right,
needed it.
exactly. Like Andre Iguodala was like the pseudo center. Like they play very outside in, which is the big thing I'm saying. Like the people who are getting the layups are going to be the guards off like split cuts at the elbow or something like that, because of the fact that the center of the court is so open because of the gravity these shooters have. Like LaMelo would have so many just wide open dunks and like cuts and like hitting cutters and stuff, and he's just such a creative player. And at the time, we know what he is now. I remember, like at the time, it wasn't really clear exactly what he would be, because he was not, he wasn't some elite shooter. He's
It was
becoming
pretty clear.
pretty good.
It was pretty clear that he was going to be an elite playmaker. Like coming out the draft, it was pretty
No,
clear
elite
about that.
playmaker is the only thing you could say though. Like beyond that, you don't really know exactly what he is though.
He's
Like,
6'8". He's a 6'8" guard. Like we
yeah,
knew what
but
was
so 6'8" guard who's a good playmaker, who's not the greatest shooter, who doesn't give a ton of effort on defense. It's not super clear. Like I get what you mean. Like his general role is clear. But like exactly how good he's gonna be and exactly what he needs to be successful wasn't super clear to me. Especially because he also has the flexibility of, because he has so much feel and stuff, you could do a lot of different things with him. And he also has the size. It's pretty unorthodox, honestly. Of like, he's also like he's pretty much the size of like a power forward, pretty much, and he rebounds it super well too. So it's like he can kind of be an off-ball dude at some times, and maybe even catch lobs and stuff. He's capable of doing all that stuff. So I just don't really think they needed the center, man. Like especially with the number 2 overall pick, I just didn't. I'm never gonna really get on board with that.
So you feel the same way about Ayton too, right?
Aiden's a little different because I think he actually has offensive skills. But yes, like when you compare him to like Luka and Bagley and stuff like that, yeah. Like so if I go back to that draft, let me see. I like Jaren Jackson. I think I liked the concept of Jaren Jackson over Ayton probably. So I think I would have still had Ayton second, but Jaren Jackson would have been probably third, I think. I'm looking at that draft really quickly. It was a similar kind of concept to what you're saying before, Ice, of like, if you get wings, you can kind of develop their skills, and they'll be able to, like, at worst, you could develop their skills, and they'll be able to do something sort of like and a lot of these big positions, I don't think you need much. Like, it almost helps you. It's really hard to even be a good big in the league with so little experience, too. Like a lot of these dudes like are really good, are gonna be negative players to begin with. But like yeah, so you have Ayton, you have Bagley, Luka, Jaren, Trey Young, Wendell Carter, Colin Sexton, Mikal Bridges, Gilgeous-Alexander, Miles Bridges. See, if you just look at that, right, the worst players in this are probably going to be Bagley, I guess Bamba, Knox. So Knox is definitely the miss. And Jaren Jackson's pretty good. So like I think you should draft more of these like skill positions, I guess is what I'm thinking. And you can see like even at pick 12, 11, right? It might be a total flyer on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but it's like big long guard. If you see something in him, I think you should go for that type of player over Ayton. I think is a little bit different because I think I could see why someone would keep him. But Bagley is ridiculous to me. I didn't understand at the time. I don't even care about the fact that Luke was after him. I just don't understand I don't even know what position he's supposed to play, offensively, defensively. I don't get exactly what he is. So, yeah, I'm just kind of anti-centers in that sense.
Well, to answer the Bagley thing, we can just chalk it up to the Kings being stupid. But yeah,
They kind of just picked the best player. I felt like I'm maybe too far away from like. I feel like they just picked the best player available on the board because
I think that's kind of what they did too.
Because Bagley was
He
by
was like a
not
consensus. Yeah, he was like a consensus top 5 pick. I still
Yeah,
that
like-
already that's a no-go for me. Like I didn't think he was anything like that.
I think it was just people got like they see like I think part of it is, and I feel like we're gonna see this like we've always seen this, but like we'll see a high school mixtape, and then we'll see like them playing college, and then it's like, oh, here comes the NBA draft. Like I don't know, when did Austin Rivers go? I'm not
I
expecting
think
you to know.
was
He's
he?
a
He's
pick
top
12 or
10.
something,
Yeah,
right?
he's top
Yeah,
10. He's
see,
top
like,
10.
yeah, see, like, I'm not saying like, I don't know. I'm not saying he should have gone lower. Like, I'd have to actually look at the draft. Like, I'd have to have the draft like in front of me to see like who the players were.
I was fine with the Pelicans picking him. With him and AD, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, right. But I would say like, obviously, like I said with the high school mixtape and everything like that, like you kind of just are like, oh my god, like look at what he's doing. But you forget, like this is him against high schoolers, and then he goes to college and he plays well. But like it's just like you over like no, I'm not saying he was overhyped, but like it's just like it's a whole different game basically.
To be fair, it's different with him because like he's an NBA coach's son. So like he had that, and then he had the game winner. He was what was that? Versus was it UNC, right? No, North Carolina.
Yeah, I could see like if Austin Rivers, if something like the equivalent of him was in the draft now, I would be totally enamored with him because the other thing about him is like he first of all his shot creating stuff, but his first step is like really
It's elite. It's elite.
It's like in the 90th percentile, right? So it's not just like a normal guard or whatever. So I could get like he has, he also has good athleticism. He's also 6'5". Like you're kind of describing like a heaven, like in heaven, this is the prospect that I would look for. Like,
and he grew into a decent defender too.
Yeah, and like even if he wasn't, he's like has the big enough body to where he'd be like average. And then obviously like that draft was what, like 2010 or something, 2012 or something, right?
13.
Yeah.
13. Okay, so like yeah, now we look. I think he probably look for a little bit more shooting, but even then, like I think he had all the indicators that he'd be a decent shooter. So I think I'd honestly understand taking someone like him for sure.
Plus, he got that dog in him. Like that game versus the Blazers with one eye and still being able to drop what was it like 28 something like that. That was insane. They really couldn't guard him, and he went all out.
Yeah.
That actually. So, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go. Yeah, you go.
So that probably go. So we're probably getting too far into the next topic now, like on accident. But I would say that, like I said before, with like the whole college high school thing, I've seen people say stuff like he peaked in high school, he peaked in college, but like I don't know. I feel like Austin Rivers, like he's as time went on, like based on like the teams he's went to and stuff like that, he can still do that stuff. Maybe not as quick, like maybe not as like
Dude, yeah, Ice and I love Austin Rivers.
Yeah.
So
shout out to my boy Valor.
Yeah, Valor loves Austin Rivers. Shout out to B.
We'll probably have him on, maybe.
Yeah, but I like Austin Rivers has a ton of value. He's worth more than a minimum contract to me. But just on the topic, so like maybe this is something also to talk about. Like we were saying, like what do we prioritize in the draft? I've been making big boards for the last 2-3 years, maybe a little bit more. I've been kind of like unofficially doing it, but just recently I've been trying to make it more thing so that I can hold myself accountable to like what I actually thought. And I don't like being let off the hook for like these like flaky type of predictions.
It's not like anyone's gonna press you about it though.
No, but I like knowing that I can take whatever I'm thinking seriously, because otherwise it's just like anybody could say he's good, but like who would you take him? It's kind of like the thing of like he's you should just traded him, be it, but like for who? Like for what? Like what are we getting him for? So like I want to know like exactly what I think about all these things in the moment, so I can retroactively look back and say like what I thought, but also to just learn from it, from the next time. And one just general archetype that I have a lot of trouble with, that I've talked to Ice about, is like these small guards, because it's so hit or miss and the hits are just so insanely good that it almost makes it seem worth it sometimes.
There's been a lot of misses when it comes to like small guards that can
almost exclusively.
Like Tyler Ulis, Shane Larkin.
Yeah. Carson Edwards.
Oh my
Yeah, and there are some, so these small guards. So examples would be like, yeah, like Darius Garland, John Morant. Obviously, John Morant's a little bit different because he has like the insane athleticism. So I'm more so talking about these like skill based. Not that John Morant is not skill based, but more like don't have the athleticism.
more the shot creating type, more shot creating guard.
Yeah, like they don't have the athleticism to do some of the stuff that Ja does, so they have to depend on things like Steph Curry, Darius Garland,
Trae Young.
Tyrese Maxey is the most recent one, Emmanuel Quickley. So these are guys that I completely, so on my boards those years. So Darius Garland, I was still I guess relatively high on, but I wouldn't have felt amazing picking him, honestly. And I like this feel. He was also one who got injured during the year. He didn't play. He played like 4 games, so you kind of have to depend a lot on like high school tape. But like Tyrese Maxey and Emmanuel Quickley specifically, I'd say I had them in like the late, maybe like early second round, I guess. And I wouldn't have gone near them. And even Peyton Pritchard, I guess. Peyton Pritchard, Malachi Flynn.
I probably would have
Like
drafted Brian Pritchard lower too. I'm not going front.
yeah, like no, I really liked Peyton Pritchard, but he's not someone I would like actively go out and try and draft. And honestly, my learning experience has made me appreciate him a lot more, Peyton Pritchard. I always kind of liked him, but like I wasn't about to go and try and draft him.
Like he's the type of player that you just hope like you fall into. You feel me?
Right, I got the 45th pick. Give me Peyton Pritchard every day of the week, bro. I love him. And so now, the thing is though, I don't know how to replicate. Like, I don't know exactly what was Emmanuel Quickley's skill that made him come out better than what I thought he was gonna be. Because honestly, he's kind of the same player I thought, but like he still has been, I guess, just more successful. And I don't really see him as like a successful NBA, like at the highest levels. I don't really see Quickley being on the floor, honestly. But I also didn't really see Garland either, and Garland has turned into like this super high usage and stuff. And I think it comes down to the feel of Darius Garland has just really good playmaking instincts, really good passer, and he's able to play that off of his shooting. Sorry, go ahead, Ice.
So the point on Quickley, you don't think he can make an impact on a playoff team?
I didn't say that. I said like, so like the way that Peyton Pritchard was played this year in the playoffs, of if we can get him on the floor, but odds are we probably can't.
No, can you repeat that? You kind of like lagged out a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So for like a player like Peyton Pritchard, like the goal is like we kind of want to get him on the floor. He definitely is a positive contributor, but odds are we're probably not going to be able to keep him on the floor because of just the glaring weaknesses he poses, and he's not elite enough at anything. So therefore, I'd probably he's like a 5-minute playoff player type of thing. And this is assuming you have alternatives. Obviously, if you have to pay Peyton Pritchard because he's your only guard, then like the Knicks for the Knicks, right? Like if you don't pay Quickley, then you just maybe don't have anybody else you want to put at that position, so then maybe just have it. But it's not the fact that Quickley's so good that he makes you have to play him, right? You want to not play Quickley, but you just don't have the option, which is a different thing. And that's why the Knicks are having their own thing, right? But some of these small guards are just really hard to keep on the floor, and you need like very specific traits to stay on the floor. And I thought Peyton Pritchard kind of had it more because he has this grit and toughness to him that I still don't understand fully exactly what the deal is with Emmanuel Quickley, honestly. But
he may just have to I'll get into it later on, but that's what I was kind of thinking too. Like, can he play point guard? And I think there's a lot of Knicks. No, I agree. He shouldn't. There's a lot of Knicks fans. There's a lot of Knicks fans who are like, why not? Like, why not do it? And it's like, well, he doesn't have the skill set. And I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying he doesn't have the skill set to play point guard.
Yeah, his playmaking isn't there. Like he can.
Yeah, his playmaking is not there exactly.
He's able to score, and that's cool. Cause I think he's scoring. I feel like he's just more of like a Jamal Crawford type, or you can put him in for 15. He gives you buckets, but if he's not giving you buckets, then you're suffering because he's not playing defense. Exactly. He doesn't know how to make a read.
Thank you. I just want to praise Ice real quick because I'm too scared to say that on Twitter, because there's Knicks fans who really like Quickly, which okay, cool, like good for you, don't care. But like, it's just like he don't force him to do like like it's funny because Alec Burks was forced to do the same shit. Alec Burks cannot play point guard. He's a guard
He's more
forward.
capable,
He's
at
not
least.
okay. Well, yeah, but like, it's just not him. Like, that's just not his skill set. Don't do this thing where it's like, well, we can try it.
Yeah,
No, like
shoehorn a player into something that they're not.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
the first time he ran point guard, the first time he started running point guard, he went 0 for 7 and had like 2 turnovers. I was like, what? Like, don't do this again. Never do this again.
To be fair, the Knicks have like the amount of time to experiment with different lineups and putting guys in different positions. Like when you suck, you're able to do that.
Yeah,
Right.
I think there's also the Knicks are probably just desperate to hope for things, and it goes to show how little talent they have. That Emmanuel Quickly is the thing that they have to hold on to. I think also.
I mean, the Bucks did that with Giannis when they decided to say, "Hey, let's try him running him at the 1," because like they're good.
Yeah, but still though, like
You got like what?
No,
a dope Quickly Giannis reference. I like it.
but like when you're 7 feet tall, like, and you're just like abnormally strong, and I don't want to like anger Bucks fans but when you just run to the rim and just kind of put up a layup, like I don't like.
No skill,
I don't know.
Someone says
Sorry.
no skill, huh?
Like that's all. Like, sorry, I'm not saying that's all he does because he's actually gotten better at shooting. But you know, when they did that, when they tried what you were mentioning, like that's I don't know. It's like I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, these smaller guards, there's a lot in this draft class that I think have potential, but I end up just moving them down. I think they're really skilled, and all these dudes are so much more skilled than some of these other guys, but it's just like, I don't exactly know, when I'm drafting for like, I want to be competitive in the postseason. And not necessarily championships even, but like, at least some type of postseason success, and I want this player to be able to contribute to it. And so, yeah, some of these smaller guards, you have to be like extremely, extremely good at what you do in order to do it. And Tyrese Maxey is a good example of someone who's just extremely physically gifted. So at least he's like 6'3", 6'4", big wingspan, but also he's just lightning quick. That dude just is a whole fast break all by himself, and is also I don't know. I didn't see the whole 44% from 3 thing coming either. So on like decent volume this year, that's the thing that made me really believe in him. Where like if he has that lightning quick speed plus the way he shoots now is really, really valuable, and so that's made me a believer. But I'm not sure exactly when you're looking at a draft prospect exactly like how you're supposed to tell some of these things. I think Maxey's maybe a little bit. I don't know how you're supposed to identify quickly, but I'm also not sure if I really want to identify quickly. But even his rookie year, he was way better than I thought he would ever be. I didn't think he'd even make it in the league, honestly. So
yeah,
it's still something to learn.
All right, Kodak in the chat says, what should teams do with Ben Simmons then?
Dude, I don't want to talk about.
I'm more talented than Ben Simmons, and all I gotta do is shoot.
Dude,
yeah,
there's a little more trouble, but like there's a genuine question behind that.
I know, but like I don't want to talk about Ben Simmons because like it's like we don't even know what team he's going to be on. We don't know what role he's like. This whole like he may get traded like because he's not like he is like untalk like you can't talk about him because you don't know like what he's doing.
Simmons can't play in the.
He may not even play. He may never play basketball again. Like,
yeah, I think we're exaggerating that.
So I'm gonna set aside all the mental stuff. I'm gonna assume that eventually he will be okay mentally, because I don't really want to fuck around with that. Like, I'm not trying to say anything about his mental health.
No, I'm not either. I'm just saying I don't like he like.
No, I get what you're saying. No, I get what you're saying. We don't know exactly what's. Dude, the dude missed a year for some non-physical reason. That's something to be like, okay, what's going on here? And so let's say he gets. So if you're asking, so what exactly about Ben Simmons?
They just hasn't like.
Skill
What is he
set.
gonna? Yeah. What is he gonna do?
Bro's been in the league too long and hasn't gotten better before the
Well, that's a
injury
good
at this
yeah,
point.
that's a good
That's a
example.
lot,
He's a
though.
good example.
He's
So,
then
yeah.
he was almost defensive player of the year. Like he's grown. Like he wasn't a defensive player before that year.
Yeah, honestly, when I remember that draft, I think people were looking at him as like he can develop offensively because his feel is so high that like, and I don't know if you guys remember the summer league, for Ben Simmons, but he actually shooting and like taking middies and stuff like that, and something happened in the middle that made him. I don't know what exactly happened there, but he stopped shooting.
He was aggressive. He was just showing out.
Yeah, and so, see, the thing is though, you can't take a guard that's like Ben Simmons, right? Ben Simmons is in the NBA because of the fact of how big he is and the physical tools, right? So that just also goes to show of like, even if you flame out as like an actual like offensively skilled the way that he's perceived to be, just his physical tools and his feel and stuff keep him in the league. Draymond's maybe another example of that. Of just like the general IQ for the game, the feel for the game, kind of keeps you on the like, you know, you're just so valuable, right? Gary Payton, like these are all dudes who Bruce Brown, like these are all dudes who kind of can't really shoot, or at least couldn't shoot. Who, I guess like they just have a good level feel, and they have like these little things that they can do. That if you're like a 6'2" guard, then it's really difficult to get away with some of these things.
Yeah, for sure. Kodak in chat says the defense part, yes, but that's easy. Defense is not easy. Not in this that today.
Yeah, that's bold.
So Giannis did
That's
what Ben
bold.
couldn't.
I wouldn't say.
I agree with that. Giannis grew. Ben really hasn't made that.
No, I agree with that. I'm just saying defense is not.
Defense isn't easy. Not in this league. You have to be able to switch, know when to switch. You have to hedge properly. You have to recover quickly.
Yeah,
the league is just not traditional guards anymore. That's absolutely facts.
Like it's possible, but it's really, really difficult. Like it's not like you could have like TJ Ford and Jamal Tinsley. Like you can't. I don't even know if you guys know who those guys are. Jameer Nelson. It's really hard to beat those types of players.
Goatmere Godson.
Yeah, in the league now, and you have to be like really, really good, or you just your team has nobody better, and that's just where you end up being. And a lot of times there's people who probably could just get replaced with. So
what's easier for you, to adapt to defense or adapt to offense?
I would say offense, because I would say offense pretty significantly.
Wait, so what was the adapts to defense meaning what?
Like, do you mean like playing
to get better?
Oh, to get better. It's easier to get better at offense or defense. Oh, that's tough. I'd say it's better.
I think it's defense. Because defense is more about just effort and putting yourself in that position. Most players in the league, they don't try to defend. Like once they put themselves in a win situation, they try to defend. Like Booker was known as like some shit defender in like the past 2 years. He's actually tried to play defense, and he's a comparable defender. Like you can't just abuse him.
Yeah, I think
it's harder to get better on offense.
Yeah, defense, like the best of the best have really good like feel, and so they're able to like make some like unorthodox reads and things like that. So I think getting to that level, it's really hard to just kind of get that. But yeah, a lot of defense is effort and knowing the scheme, knowing the being focused, being able to take all the cognitive stuff that you. Because also I think it's funny that in the playoffs people are just like do this. Like if it's Steph, you play up, and if it's this guy, you play off the screen. It's like when you're playing defense, that's just a lot for your mind to like absorb. Like you have to like think about this all in real time, and like okay, this coverage for this guy does go left or whatever. It's a lot of things to like and not only first learn, but also then remember in the moment and then act upon in the moment.
All right. To be fair though, the world knows who Steph is. If you're on the court and you're not guarding the best shooter at the 3-point line, then there's something wrong with you. I feel like that. Like that's kind of like a common sense read.
Yeah.
Like it's different if you're like you're trying to guard him off the ball, back screens, guarding the back cuts that the Warriors do when the Warriors do that fucking ring around the rosy move. You gotta like decide which defender to pick or which offensive player to guard. That's more difficult. But like if you're talking about just like strictly assignment, I feel like most people should have that just down and know what to do in the moment. Especially the primary defender and the center. The center has to know.
Center particularly, the center will be the crux of any defense that you play. So yeah, if your center cannot process that, then yes, agreed. But yeah, so I guess to answer that question, yeah, it's easier to just kind of pick up your defense. But you also, I think your physical tools matter much more defensively than they do offensively.
Well, nowadays it does.
Yeah, because I think no matter what, you can be very skilled offensively and not have the physical. Obviously, because like Peyton Pritchard could be fine, right? Like if Peyton Pritchard, if it didn't matter about his size, offensively his size doesn't really matter. What it is the defensive side. So that is one thing where I think that the physical tools is one thing that you can't really like improve, and then having you learn those physical tools and how to like use those for you and what you do, I think is difficult. But yeah, definitely easier to learn defensive schemes. A lot of that is just like knowledge and then like getting used to stuff, learning like repetitions, that type of stuff, and then also just like stamina, effort, that type of thing.
I agree.
So yeah.
It's weird because like back in like I was gonna I don't want to be like back in the day, but like there's a lot of like smaller smaller defenders. Like Muggsy Bogues was like a pest like defensively. He was only 5'3". You got defensive guards like Joe Dumars, but like now it's so much harder to do.
Joe Dumars will probably be okay, but because he's a little bit bigger. But yeah, like Muggsy Bogues is a little extreme. But yeah, like yeah, I know what you mean though. Yes, it's difficult because some of these dudes, like these wings who can play make and score so well, they just they'll just get you on switches and stuff, and then it's you're just death. They could just walk you to the hoop, and it's just difficult. And they make you double, and then dude's wide open. And that's all because you're too small. So all that kind of happens. Yeah.
especially in the playoffs. They just attacking small guards. Like CP3 got drop stepped by fucking Jalen Brunson, bro. Like you know how wild that is, bro.
That is wild. That is wild.
Another imagine being a point guard and it's like, you know what, I'm gonna drop step that point guard right there.
Dude,
and it's not like he's like Jalen Brunson's not even that big. If it was like Michael Carter Williams doing that, it's like fine. 6'6" against 6 foot. But it's 6 foot against 6 foot, bro. That's wild to me. That's general offense in the playoffs now. Well, not strictly, but
these are crafty, man. Definitely. Yeah, and I think that also I don't know if this probably fits into what we're talking about, but like even like drafting for upside versus floor, and combined with that like age, like just because someone's 18, you think that they can grow to become like Desmond Bane was 22 in the draft, and a lot of he dropped a lot of it. I think was based on the fact that he was kind of like a ready-made player already. He's not going to really get better than what he is. Exactly how that. So maybe how do you guys do that? Of like, do you draft for upside or floor? Maybe what context you do either one. And then like age.
Age has never mattered to me. Like if you're a good basketball player, you're a good basketball player. Andre Ingram was like 30 something and was still being able to get buckets in the NBA. Even if it was just one regular season game, like age doesn't matter. If you know how to play basketball, you know how to play basketball. And I'm more for the upside. I feel like you got to gamble sometimes. Most of these players, most of these guys, you gotta gamble for upside. But like you have to know what you're gambling for. Like you have to know what their base is. Like
gambling for the right thing. Yeah, I agree. That's a good point.
Like you can gamble for like, oh, he's gonna be like a shooter, and that's gonna translate. For me, it would probably be like defense and handling, depending on the forward or point guard. And for centers, honestly, for me, for centers, it has to be mobility. Like being like you have to be able to know when to switch and like shit like that, especially in this league, because like.
Yeah, for sure.
Like like Tristan Thompson guarding Steph in the finals and like being able to kind of hold his own, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kyrie on the Clippers wouldn't fit. It depends. Oh yeah, like for teams, it does depend on fit too.
Yeah, Jay Flip, how do you feel about it?
Uh, I would probably say floor, and the reason why I would say floor is basically because that's the worst he's going to be. Like, you have to at least have that in the back of your head. That's the absolute worst he's going to be. Obviously, upside's probably better, but I think I look at floor more.
Wouldn't worst be like out of the league though?
So
Like,
yeah,
no floor.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
Upside
So
versus floor. I'd say floor
Yeah, but
because
like if like you can
that's
be
as
worse than
worst
your
as
floor though.
yeah.
You can be worse than your floor though.
well,
Right.
it's also
But
projected.
like,
It's
you're telling
projected
me
floor
like
also. So their
yeah.
actual floor is you're hoping that you're pretty certain that they're not going to go below this skill level. But it's possible that yeah, if they do go, then they might be out of the league. Definitely true.
Yeah, you don't want to draft the players out of the league in like a year. Like, I don't like, especially later in the draft. I feel like you look at the floor because you want like when you're drafting later on, like second round or like even late first round, like you want a player that's gonna like be there. Like you don't want to just waste a pick. Like even like yeah, late second round, but like you just like even if it's a late second round, you just don't want to waste it. Like it just doesn't
Yeah, for sure.
like I could have just wait. I could have just traded that for cash considerations. Like I don't like
I feel
Yeah,
like
I mean,
like
in just the fact that there's a history of at least impactful players, not even just impactful, but like MVPs and stuff like that coming out of the second round. That's enough for me to at least wanna do my due diligence and maybe see if I can get some potential or something like that. But I mean, the obvious thing would be high ceiling and then also high floor, or at least like a reasonable floor. That's probably the best case scenario. Worst case, they'll be like a role player, but best case, they could be like one of the top guys on a team. That's the ideal scenario. There's maybe a couple guys like that in the draft, which is those are the type of guys where he started lower on my board, and I kept starting to move him up and up, and then at some point was just wondering like why is he like why is he not just like seventh?
you talk about the 7 foot shooting guard that I was talking with.
That's another example, but no, I was talking about a different player. But if that we could talk about him too. Um, uh, and then obviously like the boomer bust type of players. Like there's a couple players like that in this draft. We maybe segue into maybe this year's draft of like I think his name I don't really Usman Dieng is how you say it. Um, Usman Dieng. He's a
yeah
good example of. I think he is a little bit more bust type of thing. Of I I I could. There's a scenario to me where he's just out of the league in like 5 years. Um, and he was just never a positive player. But I also just think his upside is so interesting. Shane Sharp's another example of that. Maybe where you can see all these talent things, but for him, it's like you just never saw him in like actual games this year, so you don't really know exactly how some of these skills translate to like a winning game. A lot of these dudes, like, there's so many just really skilled players just playing by themselves in the gym, right? So the difference is when all these like NBA caliber athletes are guarding you, exactly what that means for your skills. So,
yeah.
um, so it's kind of tough to say sometimes about upside versus. I have trouble with some of these like using like a lottery pick on a boom or bust. It makes me feel a little bit uneasy.
Like Dragon Bender.
Um, yeah, I mean,
Like who?
assuming you could even ask exactly what the boom and what the bust would mean, I guess. But
He's supposed to be Porzingis, like all star,
Oh yeah.
7 foot shot blocker. He
yeah,
can shoot a little bit.
okay. Yeah, so yeah, and then if he doesn't, then he's just like a non-mobile. Yeah, then it's literally really hard. Exactly what happened, right? It's really hard to play this like non-defensive, doesn't shoot extremely well, doesn't do anything really well. Like it's hard to play that player, right? So
He's Poku
um,
basically.
I I do look for like a general floor, right? Which is why spoiler alert, Shaden Sharp, like it's very clear to me that his ceiling is like all-star level, but he moved a little bit down my board just because of like it makes me very uneasy to use like a fifth pick on a player that could easily just like something could happen. You don't even know anything about like how he interacts with players on the court. It's really hard to like, know. And so it makes me a little uneasy, but I totally understand taking a risk on him though. But it makes me a little bit scared. I do want like at least a solid rotation player generally, and a lot of these players are so good that they naturally kind of have that anyways. But maybe Dragon Bender is a good example of it. His ceiling is really high, but his floor is like there's so many things that could go wrong. So he's probably not a good example of someone I wouldn't really go for unless I was really convinced about the mobility part. If you can't stay on the floor defensively, then I question stuff. That's the big one. There's a couple examples of me. I've due to maybe consensus boards have in like the 20s that I have I think in like the 40s 50s because I just don't. Their floor, it's very unlikely they reach their ceiling, despite the fact their ceiling is pretty interesting, and their floor is just so bad that I just can't do it. Most players get to like their median outcome, right? So it's you don't really get the best like outcome for all these players. So I kind of
And
a mix.
I kind of, yeah, and I think that's part of what I was saying is
Mhm.
like sometimes a player, it's like really hard for them to reach their, what's it called, ceiling, because they're picked so low. You know what I'm saying?
And the team doesn't invest in them fully.
Yeah, yeah. So like, I don't know who's a good example. I
Well,
don't
like,
even know.
so I could think of a couple of cases. So like, so one thing I was thinking is that the case that I do like of a player can take a risk on is the teams that have a really good foundation. They don't really need whatever player they're gonna draft, and they're more so kind of trying to develop like a farm system for themselves in a way.
So the
Like I think
Warriors.
Brandon Boston. Oh, Warriors with Kuminga is a good example of. Yeah, he could completely, his scouting report is pretty much like doesn't give a ton of effort, really inconsistent, not a great shooter, really good athlete, but he kind of ends up settling for mid ranges a lot. He's not, and he's kind of just he doesn't really play make amazingly. So like, but like his ceiling is just so high because he has like these flashes of all these things, but he's not like anything amazing, right? And even now, he
Yeah,
could still end up being like this kind of athletic guy, kind of can do some stuff, but not really, and just end up as like a ninth man on a rotation or something. But teams that have a really good foundation and don't really need the player, that's a really good candidate to take like a massive swing. Like the Grizzlies, I think is a good example. Last year of Zaire Williams, um, he is one of the only players recently I can think of who was a lottery pick while also being like a negative BPM, which is really difficult to do. And this year, the player like that would be Patrick Baldwin.
Can you explain what
Baldwin.
BPM is for the people who don't know at home?
Yeah, so it's an advanced metric, and it stands for box plus minus. Um, and without maybe going too deep into it, it uses box score stats to generate your general value above league average for 100 possessions played. So most of the top players in the NCAA almost always are at least above zero because you could think of some of the average players in college. You could see why they would end up. The better players in the college are pretty large amount better than their peers. That you end up almost always having a positive BPM. In the NBA, they have BPM as well. And again, it's just using pretty much box score stats pretty much. And so um, yeah, Zaire Williams, he had a really weird. COVID is also another thing that really is weird for the development of some of these players recently. But he was really high level high school. Then he went to college, had an awful year, but his tools were all there. He you could see like a good head on his shoulder, good skills. He has a decent floor, like you saw this year of like just a 3-and-D player, right? But
Solid shooting on
there's
the
some
play.
ups. Yeah, yeah, and then just like has a lot of upside though of if he was able to develop his shot creation and stuff, and he showed that a lot in college. So I had him pretty high on my just because of the swinging part. But like Memphis is a great candidate for that because they have a good solution. They're not gonna get that wing in a lot of other ways, and they have a lot of other depth there, so they're not dependent on this player. But they also have enough depth that they can kind of compensate for him and let him develop, that's a great candidate. The Warriors, Boston, if they were like Rob Williams, is a good example of just like this high swing of this player with not great feel, kind of weird attitude issue. Effort isn't always there. Just swing on him, trying to get, and so there are cases where I think it's worth it. But I think, especially with the 3-and-D wings, that's a really good floor to just kind of lean on sometimes. Where if I'm not sure about some of these other prospects, I kind of defer a little bit sometimes to those type of things.
And then just hope they grow.
Yeah, and ideally they grow, but they don't have to, right? So, and that's the point. So you're not dependent on their progress necessarily. So, maybe. So, do you guys want to talk about this year's draft a little bit more?
You want to get to the top 10 players?
Yeah, sure. So we could talk about the big board. So, I went through all. I tried to watch as many games as I could. I tried to watch full games. There's a couple cases where I had it was more so like clips and possessions and stuff at the very bottom. But first of all, I think that's pretty important to watch full games because a lot of if you clip up, like Ice and Jason was saying about the Austin Rivers high school mixtape, you can make anybody look amazing. Doing something similar to that, and they'll look amazing. But then, uh, you watch all their possessions, you need to see what they, plays they take off, that type of thing. So, like I was saying before, the last couple years I made a big board, and so this year I was able to look at, have it as 76 players, man, most I've ever done, and so I made a big board. I'll release that later on Twitter, and so I'll maybe list some of these guys, and you guys can kind of pick out players you want to talk about, okay?
Or
And maybe we can use chat to maybe talk about some of these guys too.
Paolo as just definitely just a check mark that I want to talk about. I just want to start with him.
Yeah, sure.
Oh no, sure. No, you can list the rest of them. I was just saying just to make sure we talk about him.
Yeah, for sure. So, my number 1 is Chet. My number 2 is Jabari, and my number 3 is Paolo, and then number 4 is Ivy, and they're all in the same tier. And it's so that's where I cut it off at the first part. I've been kind of throwing in maybe Ivy going above Paolo a little bit, and I think people maybe take that as me just not liking Paolo, but it's really not like that. I'd say Paolo's definitely the most skilled player. I was saying this yesterday. Like I've never seen a big player like him, his size, dribble the way he does. His handles and overall like passing, playmaking is really really good. And I think if you're buying into him, that's the part that really takes you over the top because I don't really like these volume scores. But as soon as I saw that without that playmaking, I actually probably would have had Paolo a step below this. But I actually think he can be like an actual hub of an offense for sure. Which that's already a big criteria, and that's why you obviously would probably value him a lot. And I totally get why somebody would. And so I'm gonna maybe go down the next couple, and then we can come back to Paolo. So
yeah, I was gonna say like the best thing to do probably is just say some of the people that people probably know or are getting to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then my next tier is gonna be Keegan Murray at 5, Jalen Williams at 6, Benedict Mathurin at 7, and Shane Sharp at 8. And then so that's the end of that tier. And then the third tier is Dyson Daniels at 9, Jeremy Sohan at 10,
I'll be there ASAP.
Usman Dieng at 12. So maybe we can stop there.
Who at 11?
Tari Eason.
Okay.
So Ice, you want to talk about Paolo more?
Yeah.
Oh, you're bringing him up. You're bringing up the.
Yeah,
stuff.
I just because I had to make sure which team they were going to, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. So my thing with Paolo. So the reason he's lower. So if you told me who's the best player is gonna be in this, like every year I also do like these player rankings, right? I think it's fair to say that I would probably say Paolo would probably generally end up ranking above most of these other players if I were to rank it.
I think he should. I think he could go number one, but I don't think he's the best
Yeah,
fit
he
for
easily
number
could.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he could go 1 through 3. Any of them could go 1 through 3. I wouldn't. I don't think any of them is like the right answer, or wrong answer necessarily. I would even accept Ivy on some level. I think if someone believes in him, I think that there's merit to that. So yeah, so my thing with Paolo is that I don't quite think, if you really think about it in the NBA, maybe let's take a second to list like all like the top creators on the teams that like, really power their teams to top top of the standings, right? So you have LeBron, you have Giannis, you have Kawhi, Paul George, and even Paul George struggled a little bit, right? So he's not. So Paul George is probably like maybe it's the lower end of this, but I still love Paul George. I think he's a really amazing player.
top
You have
10 two-way talent.
Yeah, and you have Luka, Steph. Uh, if you want to argue, maybe like Jimmy Butler, maybe or something like that.
Tatum.
Am I Jokic, Tatum, Embiid, and these guys are all on different teams except for Kawhi and Paul George. I don't know if I said LeBron.
Yeah, you did.
And then you have Dame when he's healthy. So anybody else I'm really missing? Can you guys think of?
Uh, Jalen
Apologies to
Brown
anybody.
and Jokic.
Yeah, I said Jokic. Jalen Brown's probably a tier below this. Just like I'm also thinking about like the top of the Trae Young maybe of just like offensive hubs
Oh, John Morant.
that John Morant. So I think the point of listing those guys out is that the criteria to get to that point is so high that if you once you even dip a tiny bit, and once you get to the players like Bradley Beal, Harden probably is in the first category, but even then, like Harden was on a team with Embiid and they struggled, right? So
That's due to injury though. I don't think that's off of play style.
sure, okay, you could argue that, sure. Maybe that's it. Darius Garland is like kind of up there, but not obviously not quite there, but he's still a really good player, right? And Donovan Mitchell, not quite able to propel his team, but he consistently gets into like 60 wins, 50 wins, which is a big deal. And so Chris Paul, Devin Booker. So my thought is that all these players are just so good that it's almost, you kind of almost have to be nitpicky on like what exactly, like, do I think Paolo is ever going to get to that tier of player? And I honestly don't think so. It's possible, but I don't think so. And so then you end up asking like, so then if he doesn't, what is he? And so you end up getting to the territory of like John Collins, Bradley Beal, Jalen Brown as like your primary option. And if he's not your primary, then he's kind of like your secondary. And then I start really not liking that team. And you have to have like a really, really elite player as his primary to get there. So
you don't think you think he's a secondary option on a good team, right?
No, I think he's a not good enough primary option, which is even worse. So it's like the way I'm thinking about it is like, so Jabari Parker is a good example of a player that I compare him a little bit to. Where obviously like Jabari Parker had all these injuries, but I don't know if do you remember that draft?
Yeah, it was Wiggins, him,
Wiggins,
I think
Parker.
Embiid, right?
Yep, and, Parker, Embiid. Yep.
Okafor was the year before. Was he? I think he was the year before.
He's after.
Right?
Yeah, after. He was in the Towns draft, but so the thing that he has over Parker is that he has a definite playmaking aspect to him, which again, if he didn't have that, then I'd be totally out on him because I don't really like these volume scoring type of dudes. But so I think he ends up being like a tier below, and similar to like where I think Jabari Parker would have been, except more playmaking. But like you end up getting to this tier of players who they're not really going to be a positive defensive contributor. Although I don't think he's going to be a massive weakness or anything. I think he's a lot better on defense than people give him credit for. Especially like I think he moves his feet really well. Like pretty mobile guy. And so like I don't think he's gonna be like good enough to like just single-handedly propel your team, and then therefore, because I think he's a primary option, once he becomes a secondary option, I think it takes away a lot of his strengths. Like it's you're not maximizing his strengths, and then once you do that, if you're not maximizing his strengths, then his weaknesses become much more apparent. And I don't think his motor is great, but that's another thing of like effort. Maybe he's not giving full effort. Um,
Bro, it's gonna be like Jaren Jackson Jr. Codex says in the chat. Paulo.
no way.
I don't think
Jaren Jackson
Paolo.
Jr. is a great example of the opposite of this. Jaren Jackson Jr. is exactly why Jabari is above. Like Jabari is Jaren Jackson Jr. Of like some upside. Hopefully to become a creator, but if not, 3-point shooting, rim protecting, defensive, really versatile player. That's my point actually. Of if you view Powell like that, it's not gonna go great. I don't think. Yeah, he is off the ball, but it's not that he's off the ball. And I think he can be fine off the ball. He'll be fine off the ball offensively. I agree, but I think even with the ball, he won't be as good as he needs to be. And it's not so like primary options don't have the ball all the time. It's not that he needs to have the ball all the time. It's that like the things that are positive about him is that I do think like Ice was mentioning at the very beginning, like he can create a shot, like at the end of games. He can do all that kind of stuff. He's not super efficient. He's not great around the rim. Like he's obviously like pretty. He's above average, but against college length and stuff, he still didn't finish nearly as well as I hoped he would. That was a big deal for me. I think he's gonna be a decent 3-point shooter, but the way he shoots it kind of on the way down. He doesn't get a lot of power out of it, so I don't think he's gonna have like deep range or anything like that. But I think he's gonna be like a 35% 3-point shooter or something like that, maybe a little bit more, which is perfectly serviceable. I think he'll be able to play off ball. I'm not really worried about that. I think he could be a good offensive player, but then the defensive part of like when you're being that high usage guy and then you have to play defense on the other side, and I don't think he has the motor to like keep that up. I don't think he's just a lot of this is nitpicky too. Like I just don't think he's gonna be to the level of like the top like 15 players in the NBA. And if you're as good as like I was saying, like the Bradley Beals, some of these other guys, even Paul George is the number 1 option, has struggled a little bit. And I still love Paul George. I'm never gonna say anything bad about him, but it's it's really difficult. Like even Russell Westbrook at his peak, really difficult. Even when you're that good and you have the ball all the time, it's really difficult. And the other thing is that hopefully he'll end up dribbling the ball up. But if he doesn't, if he's gonna be like a post up type of player or like a mellow, post up at the elbow, then you're looking at like can people entry pass it into him, things like that, and it's like
And do you
I
want
don't
that
know.
as do you want that as your main offense?
Yeah, right. And so I just end up thinking he's gonna end up being like kind of deferred to in the like he's gonna end up being like a secondary option, and then I just don't like that team anymore because he's definitely like not a he should be a lot better on defense than he is, and he just like he doesn't defend the rim super well. He doesn't get a lot of steals super well, despite playing a ton of minutes. Uh, so I kind of end up being like, I think I'd prefer these other guys that I think will be like second and third, like key contributors to championship teams. Then I do think that I think Paolo will be able to get to like a 45 win team, maybe like, make the playoffs, but then I think he's gonna struggle.
If he goes to the Rockets, he's gonna hoop. Not gonna lie. I agree with the fact just because they got Sengun with them too. I think that helps them out a lot because they're both playmaking bigs.
It'd be an interesting offense for sure. I think, but it hurts. I think it really takes away from. Actually, that's a good example of other players who have talents that now I think if he's not gonna have the ball all the time, that's actually. And you also have Jalen Green. I don't know how seriously they take Kevin Porter Jr. anymore, but like I don't. I think that defense is just gonna get shredded apart, and Jay is gonna be fighting for his life.
That bro, like 6'4", power forward, bro.
Yeah, and like I don't really like Sengun and Paolo together. I think they do a lot of similar things that I definitely think I would take Paolo over Sengun.
He doesn't need the ball in his hands all the time, though. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
but he does. He doesn't. But that's the kind of the point, though. Like he can be a spot up shooter. He can do all these other things, but he's not a super high motor guy. And then if he doesn't have the ball, the reason you're drafting him is because you want him to have the ball, right?
Yeah, I want him to help your team because they already have another piece there.
Right. So then, if he's not gonna have the ball like at least a good amount, then what is he doing, right? Because then he's not really gonna be like a positive defensive player for sure. Young bigs always struggle. First of all, just at the beginning. So I guarantee he's gonna get 100% torched by some of these small guards, and that's perfectly fine. Like every young big is gonna do that, but he's also, he's generally gonna have struggles with smaller guards and also bigger guys. I think he doesn't have like he should. I almost felt like he should be way more physical than he is. Like he's one of those dudes who's very enamored by perimeter play, and he's very good at it. But he does it to the level of like it doesn't. He's 6'10", 250,
But doesn't he have
and it
that,
does.
that weird condition where he sweats out like
He sweats a ton or something.
yeah
Yeah, I don't
loses
know anything
7 pounds.
about.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't be as physical if I was him either.
Yeah, and that's
Because
perfectly.
he can't maintain it.
So
Well,
He can't
yeah,
maintain
yeah,
his way
is
to
it
be physical.
yeah. It's difficult, dude. And even without that, it's fucking difficult, dude. Like being a high usage offense guy and giving all these like little effort, which is why just again, just I just want to really stress I love Giannis. Giannis is like my dude, man. I like everything about that dude. I don't care. He could airball a million threes. Everything about him is everything I want in the player, like for my team. And
Shit,
a
Towns
lot
is
of it
physical,
is
yeah, but Towns ain't winning either.
yeah. That's a good. This is more of an argument to what I'm saying of like Towns can't be the number one option in your team, and then it's like okay, now we're compromising the defense, and now we're trying to add another player who also has to be offensively capable. And most of the time, a lot of them are going to be weaker on defense. So then you're adding all these like weaknesses, right? And you're forcing yourself to build around Paolo, which I think is not a negative thing necessarily. But I think you're gonna kind of put yourself in a weird team building thing. And the other thing is like there's just not a good history of power forward and doing what he. Giannis is a kind of a freak, but I think more often or not, you're gonna end up as like John Collins, who's a great player, like definitely positive offensively and even defensively. He's been a lot better than I thought he could be defensively. But it's just really hard to be a contributor because then you end up really compromising defense. The power forward position is a lot of times like the power forward oftentimes will determine a really big part of your team's identity. Like your team can be really big and be like Boban, sorry, not Kristaps and Dwight Powell. It could be Jay Crowder and making your team like a spread offense type of thing. It could be Al Horford. It could be Evan Mobley. Like all these guys aren't like the best players on their team necessarily. But like Mo Harkless, whatever. So that's like a spread team. Aaron Gordon, right? Cutting things like that. But they determine a lot of your identity, and I just don't know exactly what. I don't think he's gonna end up getting to that. Like he has to be so efficient, and he wasn't very efficient doing anything in college. And I think he's gonna get better at that. I'm not really worried too much about that, but like I just think it's really difficult to succeed this way,
You think he?
especially like
Alright, so you think he could settle into like a Draymond type role, where it's like
no,
at all?
oh,
no,
I'm asking. I'm asking. Alright.
no. Well, what do you mean by Draymond?
Offensively,
Uh, okay. I think in his sleep he'd be like 10 times what Draymond is, honestly.
okay.
Um, because he's also like I think people might say his best skills maybe his shot creation stuff. It's definitely his passing. Like, in terms of like that's the abnormal skill he has for me, I think. And he also his passing and his just handling is extraordinary. Which is why I think he might like I would totally admit to that. There's a definite possibility that he achieves what I'm saying he can't. Because I'd say most players that I'm kind of categorizing the way I'm here of like this high volume, high usage forward, that type of thing, it's really hard to win that way. Like even Carmelo Anthony, like in his prime, it's really difficult to win with him. And I'm saying that at like the highest levels. Obviously, Carmelo was very successful in his career. I'm not trying to denigrate that at all, but it's just really difficult to like get to the highest level. I don't. He can definitely. If you're asking, like, can he be the hub of an offense of like the playmaking, like dribble handoffs, like Sabonis type of thing?
Yep.
Yeah, he could definitely do that. And plus, just his gravity will get way more too. But I think he's gonna be kind of inefficient scoring wise. He's gonna have probably a little bit of a bump, at least initially, playmaking. Like, I could totally see him being good. Like, I'm not even trying to say like he's gonna flame out. I'm trying to more saying the reason why I don't think he'll be quite as good as he needs to be. And that's not really, again, I'm not trying to make that like a negative, but I just, you need to be so good, man, to be like the top of the league, to really propel offenses. So that's kind of why I have, because I think the thing about Chet and Jabari, just maybe bring this a little bit more first circle, is that I think they're like, if you had to dream up a player or players, obviously they have different, but of like winning players that will be like either second or third best players, but like the top tier of those top players, and provide so many different things to your team that you could see that they prove it out to be true even in the past couple playoffs of just versatility, defense. Like, the one thing I've really come around on is that defense is in the playoffs is really what differentiates some of these teams. Like the Warriors, you could say everything about KD and Steph, but their defense is just has
It's
throughout
incredible.
their entire run has been nuts, and obviously this year especially too. When they have maybe a little bit less talent and maybe a little bit more uncertainty, Clay's come back and stuff, but their defense just forces you to, you know, like, their offense is naturally going to be high variance, but they just keep you at such a low score, right? And so you see Boston, the Sixers is a good example of a team that just, like, they have so many defensive gaps that you end up just, it's really difficult to win with teams like that. And like the Heat of just pure offense, of they got just this high variance, like 3-point chucking, but their defense is like, you're scoring 20 points a quarter and that's it. Um, has been really what takes them. And the Mavs, really what takes them to the next level is their switchable defensive identity and then their 5-out stuff, right? So I think Paolo could be a part of that, and I think he generally could be like an average to maybe even above average. You never know, but I would say, like, just based on the effort level he gives, and I think he probably won't be able to give as much as he needs to. So I think I don't think he'll be like someone you can just target, but it's possible. I don't know. You never know. And so I think, so these other guys like Chet and Jabari, I think they're just so good at what they do that I honestly, you could chalk like two, player X and player Y next to them, and I can tell you Chet and Jabari are going to be really really good and help make their entire team better, and to like a level that is kind of rare. So that's kind of why I have them above generally. So that's why. So I just, for anybody who's just showing up at the chat, maybe I'll just go through my big board again. But I had Chet 1, Jabari 2, Paolo 3, Jaden Ivey 4. I messed around with maybe moving Ivy above Paolo, but I ended up leaving
No,
it.
we can't do that. We can't do that, bro.
Well, so the
Yeah.
thing is with Ivy, I think Ivy, at least, and part of this could be just that I'm kind of trying to fit everybody into archetypes that are existent. Maybe Paolo is a kind of unique player, I guess, and maybe I just haven't seen anything like him yet, which is definitely possible. But Ivy, I could see his elite step to me has so much more gravity that I think his playmaking will just open up, and he could, the level of score is similar. Like, it's not all like John Moran, I guess, because the John Moran has a natural playmaking feel. He always has that Ivy doesn't have, but Ivy does have a thing to him that you can't teach, and you can still put a lot of stuff around you, and he doesn't really restrict anything about your team. I think the fact that Paolo plays power forward and doesn't exert like maximum effort all the time really bothers me. I think Ivy, you can kind of hide him a lot better than you could hide like Paolo. So that's kind of why and then also he has like an elite skill of like that first step that he has, that is pretty devastating, and just getting around. You can see some of the, like, Jaylen Brown struggling to drive against some of these guys, and like I don't think Ivy has the ability to kind of run around people, which is not teachable. So that's kind of why part of me wants to put him. But again, I said he didn't move above him.
If the
So then,
if
go
wait,
ahead.
you said that skill's not teachable.
His
Just
first step, yeah,
just the initial first step.
yeah, the way he uses it, like he just has this natural gravity to him that, like, either you gotta give him a lot of padding, you gotta play up really high on him. Like, it's really kind of he definitely presents some issues that, especially as a primary ball handler, is different. And also, you can play him with off handoffs and stuff. A lot of that, like the fact that you can play him off handoffs and stuff, that's another thing. I think Paolo will have to generate a lot of the stuff like literally himself, and he could run pick and roll and stuff. But like, I don't think he'll get enough easy stuff. I guess through offense enough. I guess. And so fifth, I have Keegan Murray. Sixth, I have Jalen Williams. Seventh, I have Benedict Mathurin. Eight, I have Shaden Sharp, and that's the end of that tier. And then ninth, I have Dyson Daniels. 10th, I have Jeremy Sohan. 11th, I have Tyree Eason. And then 12th, I have Usman Dang. So that's my top 12.
J Fly, you have your top 10? I didn't make one.
See, I didn't make a top 10 either, but I do have some guys that I'd like to highlight. Actually, it's not guys. It's more of like kind of like the G League players. It's more of like the Ignite players. So I looked at Hardy's stats. And
Don't do that. Don't do that, man.
No, I know.
I told you this, man. Yeah.
No. But it's gonna go into what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
And why I think he's not he's better than what the stats show.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing I really like about the G League, I prefer like the players that come out of college because I think the atmosphere, and you're playing against people like your age. But the thing I like about the G League is you're playing against players who may have been in the league or are very who are close.
Trying to get into it.
Yes, who are competitive trying to get into the league. So that's why
NBA caliber players, honestly. Yeah,
Huh?
lower end NBA caliber players. Yeah.
Yes. So that's why I kind of like Jaden Hardy. Obviously, the stats are kind of meh, but and like I said, they're playing against people who have been in the league, A, and B are. It's like you said, kind of like how how Dyson Daniels, you have him kind of like top. Would you say 10?
He's 9th. Yeah.
9. Okay, yeah, so top 10. So it's kind of like
that's higher too.
For me. I kind of agree with you where he goes. I think Hardy's a little bit high. I think Hardy should be a little bit higher. I'm looking at the roster right now. CJ Miles is on the team. What the hell? Anyway, but yeah, I was
just for context, I have Hardy 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
Yeah, I think he should be higher.
I'm higher on him than I think most would have him in like the 20s or something.
Yeah, I saw one where he's like 30, but whatever. The point is I really like. It's more of just the idea of the G League, not even like a simple player. Well, for a player, I like Hardy, but for just in general, I really like the G League. I just kind of wanted to shout it out, like Daniels, Beauchamp, Hardy. Am I forgetting someone? I mean, if you want to include him,
there's a center, blanking, Michael Foster.
Yeah, okay, Michael Foster.
He's literally last on my board, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He shot. I don't know. Yeah. No.
I don't like anything about his game, pretty much.
No, I don't like it.
So,
but that's the thing.
Yeah, Hardy. So, like you were just saying, so Hardy moves up my board because of the fact that I think it means a lot for a professional team to allow an 18-year-old to be the primary ball handler. And I was watching him, and he has definitely some questionable shot selection stuff, and none of the threes he takes are open, pretty much. He's a super crafty ball handler. Definitely a 3-level scorer. And he's a really good shooter. And he didn't shoot well. He shot 27% from 3 on 7 attempts for 36, which is kind of nuts. But he's just a crafty dude, and I he's a much better shooter than that. I would bet my life on that. Um, he's gonna end up being a good shooter, I think, and he's also got pretty good size too. He's 6'4" with a 6'9" wingspan, which obviously helps. So he's not like one of these smaller guards. And he's pretty. He's got he's got some heft to him too. He's got a good frame. So, um, yeah, and just being able to be the primary, and there's obviously like a learning curve there when you become the primary on a professional team. So I I I don't know. It's kind of tough to like. I wrote this whole summary of what I like, all these things I think about him, but without going too deep into that, I just believe in him. Like most of these other guards that are have that kind of archetype, I don't think they can go this high. But like he's the only one who I was like, dude, I genuinely think he's good enough to the level that may because he's a good passer, he has a good feel, things like that. Like and he chose not to pass sometimes, obviously,
Yeah.
which his shot selection and stuff is gonna have to change a bit. But
Oh
um,
yeah.
he
It's
doesn't
funny.
have an issue with confidence either, which I like. But it's
Yeah.
so there's another guy, Bryce McGowan's, who's like you could maybe argue is the same category as this. He didn't shoot well, wasn't very efficient. A lot of tools. He's like a 6'7" shot creator. You're like, oh man, he's gonna be amazing, whatever. But he's not nearly as good of a shooter. Not nearly as good on the pick and roll. Doesn't have like as much burst or craft to his handle and anything like that. Zero effort on defense. One of probably towards the bottom five in like this class's like defensive ability. Maybe it's higher, I guess, but it just people can run by him. You could run by him, go through him. He doesn't care. Doesn't see anybody else on the floor. And you could maybe say that that's the same type that Hardy is, but I think he's just much more polished, and they're the same age, and I think he's just a much better player. So like, and Bryce McGowan's is another player. Like he went way down my board for these reasons. Similar reason to Paolo. Of if he works out, he obviously is like a top whatever 20 player in the NBA, maybe I guess. But I highly doubt it to the point that it's like if he doesn't work out, then even his median outcome is like spark plug, weird player that can't play in the playoffs off the bench. Like I don't even know what the player is anymore. And then like, are you in the league after that? Like so, like you can't be like a zero effort. He's also a big foul hunter too, which you can view that as a positive or negative thing depending on how you want to look at it. Like his play, like his style of foul hunting, I didn't like though. Um, so that's kind of like, I guess, yeah, my general logic, I suppose. So
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah,
yeah, go,
I
go ahead.
really, I would say I didn't really have like a solid top five, top 10 because I feel like it's so hard to do it because like you have to look into and you have to look into who needs what and but some GMs or whatever like
I
this
didn't care about any of that stuff.
like
I didn't care about who needs what. I just looked at I
right.
looked for 76 players.
Yeah, you just did the top 76. Like for me, I'd have to like I don't know. I'd have to go like super hard in depth. Like I don't think the Kings need a guard. Like I'm gonna talk about that later on, but the Kings don't need a guard. Like they just don't need a guard. And then it's like,
I think
You can talk about it now,
maybe.
honestly.
Yeah, we could
yeah.
just merge it a little bit.
All right. So
I'd take
yeah,
for the Kings. They're in the same category as the Knicks for me.
yeah. No,
No,
I agree.
I think they're worse. I think they're worse. Not in terms.
No, they're
Not.
not worse for the. They have real players, so they're easily not worse to me. Not okay. That's maybe a little hard. They have more competitive. Like I think like Buddy Hield is a valuable player. Um, like more so than anybody on the Knicks. Like De'Aaron Fox, I think is like if the Knicks had De'Aaron Fox, you know how wild they'd be going. I think a part of the reason I'm low on Fox is because he's on the Kings, and it's but like it's 6'5" doing stuff he can do. Like it's I'm not gonna say he's like a yeah. There's still something there that I think is interesting, and they also have Sabonis. I think their whole franchise is fucked. But like I think they have more players. Like I take more of their roster seriously than I do like Rashawn Holmes, like than I do the Knicks, honestly. So I'd say that I don't know. That's kind of just how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I like the reason why I say they shouldn't draft the guard is because I feel like they have Fox and Mitchell, and they don't really have.
Yeah. So what?
I mean, I just
Not,
think like
not for the
that's
Kings. For the
not like
Kings, you just
their
gotta get, you just
priority.
gotta get a dog. You gotta get a dog. You gotta get a dog. Whoever's the best
Just
available.
get a good
Yeah,
player.
that's amazing. Yeah, but it's just like I don't know. It's not really the priority. I feel like.
Dude, at worst case, they've shown that they're willing to trade their 1 year away. I just drafted him last year, guard, for an all-star level player. At worst, you can get Ivy or whatever you want to get and flip him for whatever assets in the
Yeah,
future,
exactly what
right?
So said. Get
At
assets, flip
worst,
them, and you just
yeah.
simple as that.
Sabonis is not the person I would have gone for. However, he's quote unquote an all-star level player, who they could have definitely gotten someone at that caliber who's maybe a little bit more. Uh, I don't know why they did that. I still don't. It doesn't make sense to me. But at worst, it's something that other teams want, and they're not gonna not want it next year, even if Ivy were to struggle.
Right, but
Things specifically about him, I think would be good. And actually, I was even thinking about Ivy plus Jalen Green. I think that'd be kind of a player. Same thing with Fox. Of it'd be a cool team of having that level of dynamic play from two guards that just the weak side guard would just explode. I don't know. It'd be kind of cool. I don't know. I can see them being successful. They're also bigger too, so they have big. Ivy and Fox are both bigger. So and then they got Harrison Barnes is easily between the Knicks and the Kings. Harrison Barnes is the best player already. I think that's him and Fox. I think are probably the best players.
yeah,
So
I would say I like Harrison Barnes. Yeah, I'd say I do like Harrison Barnes as a player, like how he was used on the Warriors, but I feel like I don't know. I like him, but I feel like he's
I mean,
better type of
yeah,
role. But
no, I like him. Yeah, as a third or fourth best player though, I think he's great.
yeah,
I don't want him to that's the way I'm talking about him. But I think he's super underrated now because he's been exiled to the Kings, which unfortunate for him. The Kings again, the Kings are just weird front office. I think they should have traded him 3 or 4 times already. Um, Especially 2 years ago, they could have gotten so much for him. Uh, but maybe so. I want to segue into maybe a couple players that I'm abnormally high on, and then a couple players I'm abnormally low on.
Yeah, we'll do that to finish off the draft segment.
Yeah, and then we could talk about we could talk about the stuff Jay Flay was talking about before.
Yeah, sure.
And then we could I don't think it'll take too much
We
longer.
we might have to we might have to do another stream, honestly.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Up to you though.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I feel like yeah.
Yeah, Ice, you're the boss, man. You tell us.
All right, so let's finish the draft stuff and then see where we go from there.
Okay, so Jalen Williams is probably the player I'm the highest on, probably relative to consensus, I guess. He's what, sixth on my board, and I just can't see a reason why. Because I had him lower, and then I was like, well, he has a really high floor to me because he has 7'2" wingspan. Really, pretty strong guy. Really, really great feel. I love the way he runs the pick and roll. Kind of, he has that Luka vibe to him. He's not gonna be anywhere, but the pace he plays with of he uses his body physicality to get into the paint. Great making reads. Shot it really well. Not on a ton of volume, but he shot it pretty well from the free throw line. Also, I think that will translate. He very good, versatile defender. His length really helps with that. Uh, Good motor. I was like, dude, I can't really find a general weakness other than I guess elite athleticism. But then I look at all these other guys and I'm like, they have so much more that I'm wondering about that I'm like, dude, I feel like at worst, Jalen Williams could be a kind of cool 3-and-D type of player that has a lot of playmaking up, secondary ball side. At best, he could be a primary, and so he ended up just kept moving up and up and up, and I'm I don't know. I guess I left him at 6 for now. Maybe he'll move higher by the time the draft comes. Um, I think Tari Eason is an interesting player to talk about because I've seen a lot of people have him the 20s and stuff, and I kind of get it. I think especially offensively, um, I don't really know what he's gonna do entirely. If his shot were to translate, which I'm not super confident in, then he has a lot clearer path. If it doesn't, then I kind of view him a little bit in like the um at least in college he's doing like a lot of like playmaking big type of stuff. So like fake dribble handoffs. He also is super athletic, so he just literally just runs at the only right-handed. He can't go left at all, and he has the athleticism to still finish like really powerfully. He has the length and strength and everything to get there, but he's only right-handed. That's the type of thing that'll get scouted pretty much in a playoff series. So that's definitely something he'll have to work on for sure. But the thing with him is that his I couldn't really deny his defensive impact. Like it is jarring to see this. The first of all, the plays on film, and second of all, like the numbers, and I kept trying to think about it, and it's like Matisse Thybulle is a good example. Like he kind of was like hard to play in the playoffs, right? But it says a lot to be a player that like you're so good at what you do that like a team is willing to play you despite they don't have any confidence and stuff, and you're so impactful that you could even be an all defensive player. And he gets so many steals, so many blocks, so many like he's such a defensive playmaker, and his hands are massive. Like this dude would just reach into like a player with dribbling or just walking around with the ball, and he just like sticks his arm in there and just takes it, like similar like what Kawhi was doing to Ben McLemore, and he like literally just grabs it and runs the other way. And he's just such an athlete and stuff that I couldn't really deny it. And I was like, I think he can find something. And he also has enough skills. He's a great rebounder, like elite for his size. He's 6'8". I think he'll figure out something to do on offense. He could even be a small ball five. I think he'd be good in that role. If his shot works out, then he'd be way, way above, honestly. Um, so I kind of just believe in him. Jake LaRavia, definitely higher on. Just such a good all-around player. I think he can guard pretty much anybody. Obviously some of these smaller guards he might have a little trouble with, but like, I don't know. I think he's just such a well-rounded player that I think he's gonna be a great shooter. Very versatile defender, great instincts overall on offense and defense, great passer, all that kind of stuff. I just really like him. Like if the Warriors were to get him, I would lose my mind. That would make me so upset because he's like him and Keegan Murray are like the most perfect fits I could think of for the Warriors. Um, so and then maybe some players I'm lower on the defenses. I've seen Johnny Davis in like the top 10, and if you the way I look at it is like if you were to think that Johnny Davis is going to be like your primary scorer, or even like a shot creator on like the level he was in college, I just think you're tripping. I don't see it at all. Um, if if you tell me that he's gonna be like Josh Hart or Dylan Brooks or something like that, then I'm really high on him. And so if it kind of depends, but he's never. I don't know if he believes he is that. If he told me he ends up playing like that, then I'd be a lot higher on him. But I view Johnny Davis as like a role player pretty much. And I'm not sure if everybody else thinks that. Um, and then Mark Williams, I moved him down quite a bit just because of the fact that like I was saying with you guys like at the beginning, I'm just kind of over these centers, man. Like he is not just an everyday center though. Like there's a lot of everyday centers in the draft. He's not. He's definitely above that. Like he has a massive standing reach. He's really impactful at the rim. Great defensive player. Moves the feet pretty well relative to his size. So there is. I totally get why someone. He's definitely a very very safe pick.
What's
And
your
you'll
ideal
get.
center then?
Yeah, no. He's definitely an impactful center.
No, who's your
And I
ideal
could
center? What's your ideal center then? If you don't like
like
centers, if you don't
in
like
the
drafting
in the
centers,
league now.
just in general, like what do you just want to stretch?
I
No,
mean,
it's not so much a testament to what he's doing. It's the I don't want to use my first round pick on him. If you told me Mark Williams is an undrafted free agent, I would sign him in a heartbeat. I want him. He'd start for me. He'd play 40 minutes for me. It's not this play style. It's that I think I can get what he's doing somehow, some way, a little bit different. Even if it's not quite as good, I'm fine with that. And so it's not. I'm not really. I'm saying that. And if I had like the 23rd pick or whatever, which is kind of where he is 22nd on my board, And if I have the 22nd pick and I'm looking at the tier that he's in with me, I could see taking him, and that's fine. That's different. I'm not using like a top. Like I've seen him in the top 10, top 15. It's like, dude, there's just players I want him that I can't take a player like this. I don't know. I don't know. He's just very in that archetype, and I just don't really want to waste first round picks on him.
Stretch bigs are
Also-
overrated from King So. Check them out. Yeah, I agree.
And I'd also say that there, like, nowadays, it's very easy to get like a 7-footer on like a cheap contract. That it's
Yeah.
almost like you don't really need to draft a big unless you think it's like,
Well, yeah.
wow.
I feel like you have to draft role players sometimes. And I feel like people.
Yeah,
No, I
no,
totally agree with that.
But I'm
But like
saying
you're trying to say, oh, the draft pick is too hard for me to pick him, but you kind of need him though, depending on the team that needs a great center. Easy to get
Like-
a 7-footer on a cheap contract. That's not true. That's not true. It's hard to get a great big who can play defense.
No, yeah,
defensive IQ to get a
getting
stop.
a great, yeah. Oh, yeah. No. I'm saying, like, I guess maybe I should say, like, my ideal team runs through like the point guard, and if the point guard is good enough, you don't need as good of a center. You see what I'm getting at?
Well, no,
So I
I
would
think
say,
what
like,
you're really saying is like the center is not. So center is super impactful on defense, right?
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
and so if you're telling me that I can get there's a lot of just rim protected centers. I will admit, Mark Williams is definitely not just like an everyday big. I'm not trying to say that. He is 100% like very good at like rim protection. Moves pretty well. He's definitely like not just like, I'm trying to think, like he's better to me than James Wiseman or anybody like that. And there's definitely something to him that I can understand. I can definitely understand why you want a center. But I think it's like, if you're telling me that I have to use my first round pick on him, I don't want to do that. And if you even look in the past drafts, like Jarrett Allen was in the 20s in the draft he was in. Robert Williams in the late 20s. Like all these dudes are like, you know, like Brook Lopez is in the starting. Like you could find players somehow in this way, and Hassan Whiteside is playing rotation minutes. Like you could figure out a way to get. I love Nerlens Noel, for example. But like, if you want me to draft you as a center high, I need some kind of offensive game to you that's beyond rim running. And the other thing with Mark Williams is that he didn't play it in a lot of pick and roll either. Like he pretty much was like, he's a dunker. He's very good at this too, but he's like a dunker spot, lob threat, and he can play a little bit of pick and roll. And he does have a little bit of explosion to him, and he is a very good shot blocker. I guarantee you, he's probably going to be underrated once in the league. Like I would love Mark Williams on my team. I love rim protection. I'm all about it, but I don't want to use my first round pick on him unless I'm in like the 20s, which is why I have him in the.
Sounds like MP's describing it really good.
Okay, so I have to.
Sounds like a valid first round pick.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like you need.
Okay,
that is what I'm saying. Like Rudy Gobert is a late. Like he was even drafted earlier than most people thought. Like late first round pick is where I was like. Jalen Duren is a great example of like I see why people want him. I don't want him. I'm not using a top 15 pick or whatever. Like I get he's 18, he has a lot of upsides, whatever. I don't care. I can't do it.
Okay, so I have to like, I guess I have to explain myself. When I meant center, I mean like a center. Draymond to me is not a center. PJ Tucker's not really a center to me. They're like forwards. They're forwards that can play center. I mean like center.
Yeah, but so like a lot in the playoffs. There's a lot of teams that have like 20-minute centers for most of the game, and then Draymond's playing center.
That's
PJ
like,
Tucker's playing the center. Giannis playing center. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I mean. I mean like Whiteside, like McGee, not like like Jokic is like.
Yeah, those guys are different. They're in that totally different category than these.
That's not the category I'm talking about. Those are like freaks. Like those are like not like centers. They're like forward centers, if that makes sense. Like power forward / center. I mean like center. you'd be like,
No, no, no,
center,
no,
center?
no, no.
No.
So yeah, Nate, it's not. Oh, what's up, Nate? So I think I think what J Flight's also saying is that you do need a certain amount of minutes from a quote unquote center, just because you do need. It's hard to place, like, especially some of these guys are most of the time like undersized, so it's like a lot of strain. You want to allow them to be able to play in not as high of a intensity role for a little bit of it, and then in the more like critical points of the game, you play your best lineups that are going to be like your Draymond at center, your PJ at center, Giannis at center. Yeah, dude, Giannis could be a center 100%, 100%. But I would also, yeah,
What
I
I'm
also
saying,
think the other thing about
but
Giannis is that I do like the fact that you can play Giannis at the 4 and a center at the 5, because that does add a different like dynamic of like things like offensive rebounding, good rim protection stuff. So I think that's a different dynamic to have, and I think it's worth having a center you could run like at 20 minutes. Like you could 100% have a great team running Giannis, as a full-time center. And there's nothing wrong with that. But he's probably even a bad example. Giannis could actually legitimately be a full-time center.
It just
But
keeps Giannis
it's
out of
things
foul
like
trouble.
foul trouble, exactly, like foul trouble,
that's
energy, and things like that. And just not forcing him to do all these things, and then knowing that he is capable of it. It's more like that, right? And so, like, yeah, Mobley at the 4. I love all that stuff, and so I like centers, but like, and I think Mark Williams. I think that the middle of this draft is kind of weak to the point that I think I guess be fine with him at like 15 or something like that. But like, honestly, like, I don't know, he ends up keep moving down for me, and if he moved up this one, like, I would rather have Jake LaRavia over Mark Williams, and that's like, I don't care what anybody says for me, like, that's just, I'm not gonna change my mind.
Well,
And then sorry, say that again.
no, go.
And then Blake Wesley has like so much upside to him that I think I would bet on him, because I can't find just Blake Wesley's running around everywhere. And his production was kind of low, but I could see like Ice is like the Jamal Crawford-y type of dude. I was talking about yesterday. Where his floor is actually higher because I think he's a really good defender also. And then EJ Liddell is like exactly what half these teams need, of like, if EJ Liddell next to Giannis so that Giannis can play the center, or that he could play the center. Similar, like a PJ Tucker thing of like allowing you the flexibility, and playing him next to Cat or somebody like that, like, or even next to Jokic. Like, EJ Liddell is above that. So these are all players I can't just find anywhere, right? This is why Jeremy Grant is like, we want your first round pick and your firstborn son. Like, this is why, like, these players like Robert Covington, two firsts every time he gets traded for a reason, right? And Mark Williams, like, Rudy Gobert is getting shopped right now. Like I don't know. Robert Williams was drafted 28th overall. I feel like you just find this dude somewhere. And I maybe again not even as good quite as him, but like, I'm fine with that. And I would love Mark Williams on my team, dude. Like, I'm not trying to shit on Mark Williams. I'm more saying like he's definitely a safe pick, and he's definitely going to be a good player. But I love Christian Braun. I think I want Christian Braun over Mark Williams. I have Mark Williams above him, maybe out of deference. I don't know, but like, it's just, I don't know. Especially once these Mark Williams can kind of switch. He's probably more switchable than you think, but dude's gonna run by him. He's gonna get a lot of foul trouble on the perimeter. You're definitely gonna be able to blow by him. There's a lot of these wings after, like, I kind of just if I had to pick Mark Williams, I think I'd rather just trade the pick and let somebody else take Mark Williams and get something back for it. Then
So,
and then trade down or something.
okay, so can I explain what a center is real quick? Because I feel like I should have explained. So I'm saying like much taller than PJ Tucker, pure inside, finishing at the rim, can do can do a hook shot, can finish at the rim off like a pass off the roll, that type of stuff.
Yeah, simple
I'm
stuff.
not like Brooke Lopez.
I love Brook Lopez. Don't you dare.
I love him too. I don't know, like,
There's
I
so
guess
much.
I probably could've
There's
said
so much. If Mark Williams, if you're telling me Mark Williams turns into Brook Lopez, I'd take him fucking fifth.
Which Brook Lopez though?
I'd take
So,
Brook Lopez now or the year before, whatever. Assuming health and stuff, I'd take Brook Lopez now. If you're telling me I get a 23-year-old Brook Lopez, I'd lose my shit. I'd take him third overall, dude.
Nate, you just explained. Okay, you were talking about different stuff.
And 5 centers that utilize their post sticks.
I'm saying,
Oh man.
Draymond. So Draymond is not a center because he does like so much defensively for the Warriors. Maybe on a different team he just do it, but like yeah, Ben Simmons. Thank you. It's like they're not the same player obviously because they're just not the same player, but like they do other stuff defensively that a normal center wouldn't do. Maybe that explains it. Maybe that was better.
Yeah. So.
Like Robin Lopez. Yeah. Robin Lopez. Thank you. Robin Lopez.
They're talking about just centers use their post sticks, man.
Nate, you can win chips with a regular center. I don't know like what this like.
No, Nate, you're a baseball guy, right? So the thing about there, I don't watch a ton of baseball now, but there's pitchers that I would back in the day refer to as like innings eaters, and
Yes.
and
All right, now this is interesting.
the goal there is like an average player who won't kill you, and who just eats up minutes and who can do basic shit. And you definitely, especially regular season, you do need that, and that has a lot of value. Even in the playoffs too, like Dwight Powell playing those 13 minutes or whatever. I actually think he's more than that. But like, I don't know, Hassan Whiteside, these, Robin Lopez is kind of in the category of just like, 20 minutes maybe, like just get the shit done. Yeah, obviously, yeah. I don't think he'd get not in this year's playoffs. I don't think he'd get rotation minutes. But like I could
Well,
see
no.
in a playoffs, like against the Bucks or something, I could see Robin Lopez getting like minutes here and there. I do think you need a little bit of that role on your roster. But again, what are we talking about again? Like Robin Lopez barely on a roster. I think Robin Lopez could easily be on waivers tomorrow, and I'd just rather not draft Mark Williams and then just sign Robin Lopez.
That's
And
crazy. That's no.
what?
You taking
What?
you taking Robin Lopez over youth? That's just
Yes.
Okay.
Because Mark Williams is gonna have the youth thing where he's gonna be
He
young and
doubled down,
experienced.
chat. He doubled down, chat. Nah, continue.
He's gonna miss, like he's gonna foul. He's gonna do all the young big stuff. Plus the fact that like I can get like just general rim protection, solid stuff from like why do I want youth with Mark Williams or like even I could at least understand like I think the thing with James Wiseman was people were trying to say
To build a team?
no, they were trying to say like he has a lot more skills than he like he has shooting potential and he can dribble a little bit like that. And so I think that was part of it. I think if you just told them that he's gonna be JaVale McGee, I think maybe he would have gone lower.
I'll take Batman and Robin over Robin Lopez. Robin Lopez.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to say Robin Lopez, man. I'm saying there's a bunch of league average centers that if I just need 20 minutes from you, I think I can deal with it, and I don't need Mark Williams. The worst thing I could think of is using a lottery pick on a player that gets played off. Like Rudy Gobert doesn't get played off the floor, but like there's dudes who actually could get played off the floor. Do get played off the floor.
He should get played off the floor.
He doesn't though. He's Rudy Gobert is a good player. I'm not but if you think he gets played off the floor, Mark Williams is not as mobile as. So then, what are you really saying here, right?
My okay.
Like if anybody shits
point,
on shits on him, like you should not be using a lottery pick on Mark Williams, and that's just like I don't know, like how else to say this other than that. And so Robin Williams is probably the low end of the centers, but like you could find JaVale McGee, you could find even Jeff Green can play center for you.
No, he cannot. No, he cannot. We've seen this before. He cannot play center.
He can add, depending on your roster, he could definitely play like 15 minutes at center.
No, he literally cannot do that. He is a forward, and that is it. He is
I want him at forward, but he could play like if you're saying especially in the playoffs, Jeff Green could 100% play like 15. He was doing that with the Nets, dude.
He can if you win 35 games.
Okay, so
yeah, I'm not talking about your full-time center all the time.
15 minutes is a lot of time. It really is, especially
It is fine, whatever. But
You're giving up a lot.
fine, he's
for
a better
Jarrett
dude.
Turner.
Okay, you really gotta make okay. Isaiah Hartenstein, Ivica Zubac, Hassan Whiteside, uh, Yusuf Nurkic. Like I can find this dude somewhere,
So spit.
and
Like,
I'm not even opposed to drafting him. I'm just saying lottery picks. Like I'm not wasting picks on like this type of player. You could find this player somewhere. And so like, and if you really think about it, the types of players that people are, yeah, dude, if you're sleeping on Isaiah Hartenstein was really, really good this year.
He was a dog for the Clippers this year. I'm not
Mason Plumlee.
Plumlee's a little bit.
I'm not
Plumlee's
saying I'm not, dude. If you're
Yeah,
trying to be like a real team, I don't want Mason Plumlee there. But my point is that I wouldn't want Mark Lopez, like a team with Mark Williams as your primary center, and he's playing like it's not gonna. The same shit's gonna happen. So like it's like you're really looking for players who can provide rim protection. Yeah, I think in certain contexts, not in this finals, dude. Against Steph Curry, it kind of shit changes. But like, I think against the Celtics, yeah, all these guys can play.
Yeah, like there are certain teams that, like you put one of those 7-footers in. Like Warriors, absolutely not.
Man,
Like you're not playing Zubac against the Warriors.
Okay,
You're not playing.
yeah, I wasn't. I was okay. I'm gonna literally. Hold on. I'm gonna
Let me
actually
just.
really think about this now. Okay, just to make a point. Okay, Jarrett Allen, Steven Adams, Daniel Gapper, Mitchell Robinson, Kevon fucking Looney, bro. That dude doesn't look like he could be a mailman. Okay, Andre Drummond, I don't think he could do it. Isaiah Jackson, Bismack fucking Biyombo was if you asked me 3 years ago, I would have said Bismack Biyombo was probably literally the worst player in the NBA. The dude played rotation minutes on a 60-something win team and was actually being chosen to play in games over JaVale McGee.
Why are you putting Jarrett Allen in the same conversation as these bench players? That's a great
Mike, it's the same.
Dude,
To be
you're
fair,
you're
MP doesn't
talking
like
about
Jarrett Allen like that.
No. Jarrett Allen was a fucking 20. He was a pick in the 20s. Is my point. Like these dudes are all like even the best. Like, Gobert is a late 20s pick. Like I'm not using a number 2 pick, number 5 pick, I'm not getting Jalen Duren. I could care less. Like it's just not happening. Robert Williams has actually some really unique things into him that nobody else does. His just ability to just get off the floor really quickly, I think, is really different than anybody else in the league right now. And so, but Jalen Duren's a little bit more like heavy-footed than him. So like I'm just listing off these dudes who like I think can kind of approximate what we're talking about here. And I'm not. I completely get Mark Williams. I get why someone would want him, but I'm not using anything about like. I could in this draft specifically. There's maybe a gap where you could say like anywhere from like 17, 15. I could see it. But like honestly, I'd rather risk it on like a versatile player like Christian Braun, who be like Pat Connaughton is more valuable to me than like half these bigs who are just not playing at the end of these games. And it's because he's a great shooter, or at least a solid shooter, versatile defender, offensive rebounds. Like that dude, say is like not as skilled. It's just so much more valuable. And I'd rather have just like a small ball center at the end of it. So it's like I don't. So that's I'm kind of just I don't want to spend real resources on getting centers like that.
Chat beating his ass right now.
Hmm?
You know what it is. Christian Braun was the most valid fucking system over
Right.
Mark Williams.
Oh, what are we doing next? Ice's top 10, Steph, Hornets.
I'm not even sure if we have time for that. I'm a DM writer.
Yeah, we messed up. But no, like my point is, and I'm not gonna argue it anymore. Honestly, is there is players like Jarrett Allen, whoever on every roster. Like, it's how it is. Like, maybe they're not maybe as good as Jarrett Allen, but like they're on a roster for situational purposes. That's my point. My point.
I think you're just disrespecting the fuck out of Jarrett Allen at this point. God,
How?
damn.
How?
You
I
just
didn't
said
say. How?
So I think
I'm not.
I think
saying-
so.
oh my-
If
That's
people
what-
have an issue with the Daniel, I agree that there's tiers to this, right? So Daniel
yeah,
Gafford is not
good.
equal.
I agree.
Is
I'm
not
saying,
equal
like,
to Jared Allen.
But you just said there's a Jarrett Allen on every team. That is not true.
No, that's not what I said.
That is literally what you said.
A
Jared Allen style player.
So Jarrett, you didn't hear what I said. I said Jarrett Allen player, maybe not as good, but a player like Jarrett Allen.
So here, actually, wait. Let me shift this, okay? Who cares if Jarrett Allen is good? Let me shift this, okay? Why is so in the past, like all these championships, right? Tristan Thompson is the center, right? It's Kevon Looney is the center. JaVale McGee's the center.
16
Giannis,
above.
Brooke Lopez is the center, which is so. There's not really like these crazy shot blocking dudes. Robert Williams is the only one I could think of who actually would I think can stay on the floor, and obviously he and if people my question would be if people are shitting on Rudy Gobert. So are you really saying something about would anybody in the chat say something about Jarrett Allen that's better than Rudy Gobert? And if so, I would love to know. Because the way people shit on Gobert, I'm like, dude, the Clippers don't play a center. Like,
they said yes.
Okay, so his hands. Okay, I think that's actually okay. So offensive side, I think that's offensively definitely. I agree with that. That's definitely true. I'm more talking about defensively. I think offensively, even though I'm not really. This lob radius. No, stop it.
No. We've seen it. We saw game 2. They try to feed him.
We're talking about lob radiuses with Gobert.
Yes.
Lob radius is a pure. I agree with the hands part. Lob radius, no. Stop it.
Jarrett Allen.
I agree with that idea. I pretty much valid offensive rule. I agree is the thing that really hurts Gobert, and I agree with that. And that's the thing that really helps like Ayton, for example. That even if he's not quite as good on defense, his just general offensive game helps. Yeah, but Nate, Gobert's not missing lobs, for example.
He was missing lobs in the playoffs, bro.
No, he is not. Stop. He's missing. He's missing dump off passes, which is a different thing.
I'm not talking about dump. I'm talking about legitimate lobs. He was not catching them shits, and I was screaming at V. I was wondering why the hell can't he do anything properly? In the second quarter, they're literally just trying to feed him because the whole media is on his ass, and then they gave him the ball, and he couldn't do a goddamn thing with the shit.
But okay, so the difference in their catching lobs is this extreme? This is the difference between so essentially is Jarrett Allen better then?
I think so. But then again, you already know how I feel about Gobert, though. I do not trust him.
No, so Jarrett Allen. Okay, so Nate is saying Jarrett Allen's better.
So saying that too.
Than Gobert. I just don't agree. I don't agree with that at all. So fine. I think we're just not gonna agree on that. So no, that's not the question though, Nate. I'd rather have I'm assuming you're saying what skills and you're saying how they fit on the team. You're saying the money and stuff like that, right? Are you saying he's literally better? You think he's equal money, everything? You put them in the same exact role. You have these cloned different two realities. You sub one in for one. And they're exactly the same scenario. You're saying you'd rather have Jarrett Allen and everyone?
Yes, sir. Jarrett Allen over Rudy Gobert. I'm saying that. I would prefer him over Rudy Gobert. Yes.
So I just don't think you guys are appreciating what Rudy Gobert does then, because I would argue
Allen has gotten better every year, legitimately every year. I think what was it 20? Was it 20?
Oh my goodness!
Wait, whoa! Has he not? He was an All-Star this year. He was not that 3 years ago. No one projected him to be an All-Star.
Dude, you're talking about okay. He's gotten better every year, sure. I'm not denying that part, but Rudy has as well. And even then, he's that if you want to say he's not getting better, All NBA defensive completely destroys on defense. That's his peak. Then that's getting better than that? What are we like?
But getting exposed in the playoffs, yeah, that's a bad peak. That's a bad place to peak right there. If you not give me a goddamn thing on offense, your hands are
Nate,
sloppy as shit.
it- no,
And
this is really sounding to me like we're hating on a player because he's been in too many competitive situations to where flaws show, and another player who just hasn't done anything, so we can't say anything about him. That's what this feels like to me. Because
Like when we pull
Jared
up,
Allen impacting winning, that's laughable to me. Like
it's
I'm
Carmelo
not
Allen,
saying
argument.
I'm not even saying he doesn't, but like to say that Gobert doesn't impact winning, and then say Jared Allen has a either I guess potential to, or or can I don't even understand what we're talking about anymore, man. Like
yeah, I think
It's the
the
Carmelo
dude's on
argument.
defense
When he
by
was on
himself.
Knicks, people wanted Carmelo to be LeBron.
see, I think we're kind of we're not overhyping Jared Allen because he's a good player. Like that's not the.
No,
I'm
He's
not
a
MP,
great
saying
he's a
MP,
like,
great player. I'm not
M,
trying to say
no,
anything
no, no,
about
no, no, no.
negative
We're not
about
gonna
him.
do this. We're not gonna do
Yeah,
this. I didn't say he was bad. I never said Jared Allen was bad.
yeah, me
No,
neither.
once
no,
in this whole
you said he was
conversation.
common though.
I said the
Yeah,
role was
he
common.
can't. He's a common center. He can't shoot, and he's a
Yeah, but
good defensive player. That's a common center. That's what I meant
no,
by
but
saying.
to
That's not
further
Second of all,
common. That is not common.
nobody no, but but so listen though, like to further that, I said I made the point before of look at the last centers in like all these competitive teams, right? Tristan Thompson, Kevon Looney, uh, like Brooke Lopez, all these dudes who like they're not like anything like Jared Allen, right? There's like they're either ground bound or they're just very like they're not. You could say things about their hands or whatever. But like the point is that they don't prioritize center, right? Could we agree on that?
But they're playing next to fucking LeBron and Steph, bro. Like those guys
Sure,
you just
but what you're saying really is that the center's not what determines good teams from bad teams, right? So you're saying if a team has a bunch of good players, the center doesn't really matter. AKA the Clippers, the even the Celtics, and I think Robert Williams is actually a pretty interesting case. I think he's a better example of Jared Allen. But like literally, we haven't just gotten a chance to see Jared Allen just get run by. Like if you think Rudy Gobert is getting played off the floor, man, like I don't know what to say about like if you think that, but then you don't think Jared Allen would get played off the floor. And I think that the hands thing is fair, but and I that definitely is a real thing, and that irritates me. But like literally, Rudy Gobert is like leading the league. I think that's more indicative of the playmaking around him to get like just um yeah, and I agree. Yeah, Nate, like the offensive game, there's so many things that Jared Allen can do that I agree, even Aiton can do that that Gobert doesn't do, but we haven't even said anything about that, right? So if you're saying like the lob stuff and the like, I'm not gonna hear any of the lob stuff. If you're saying like the dump off pass and stuff, that's real. And if you're gonna say that the floaters and the flip shots and stuff, that is definitely real as well. And I agree with that.
yeah, we're not disagreeing with you. Like
But at the
Jared,
at the same time though, these guys are not what's making the playoff teams, which is what my main point is here. So if we're saying like I agree, if I could just have Jared Allen, awesome, right? But if you're telling me like you could say all you want about Jared Allen, here's the fact, okay? The Cavs are in cap hell for no reason, and Jared Allen's making $20 million. So they can't make their team any really like a lot better, and they could get maybe like 70, even 75. You can say all this hand stuff, whatever. 75%, I drop a few balls, whatever. But I'm just overall better team because I can add better players. Dude, Jared Allen is not what made that team defense crazy. Mobley is what made it crazy. Like most teams with like two bigs on the floor, like Giannis, Brook, that type of thing. Like, dude, I do not hate Allen, man. I just can't stand like I don't get how you could hate on Gobert. Like if you're hating on Gobert, I only want to hear really like money and maybe the general impact of the role. But to say that Jared Allen is like this amazing player. Like I again, I'm not even conceding all this like floater stuff and stuff. I agree with that, but like Jarrett Allen got hurt, and what happened to the Cavs? Dude, again, that's more to say that you do need a center. So if you said Jarrett Allen leaves and then you insert JaVale McGee, I think they would have been fine. At least much better off. But Mobley, this is kind of why I was lower on Mobley generally in the draft, is that I don't really think I think he's actually a better 3-4 than he is a 4-5 sometimes. And he could be a small ball 5 type thing, but like he doesn't really have a lot, like the physicality sometimes of being center. I love him guarding on the perimeter. Um, he switches really well. I love the way he defends. Um, but like yeah, like I don't want, but like we're not talking. If we're talking about the price, then I completely get that, Nate. But you're making my point though. I'm trying to literally say that I don't want either Gobert or Jared Allen, and you guys are telling me that somehow those two are different or something like that, and like I don't want either one of them being like above 20 million. That was my main point. That's why I don't want to spend lottery picks on the guys, because ultimately I feel like all the other guys are what, like Gary Payton, like all the other guys are what really makes it. Like Draymond Green, these guys are the guys who really like really take you to the next level. One is yeah,
Okay, so I'll say this. I'll say this. I think part of the argument is how, like, just pricing of players. So I think the pricing of players has completely like ruined like how we view players. Like,
yes,
yes, Gobert is not too worth that much. He's not. So, but that's
agreed.
just how
No
like it is.
arguments.
Yeah, we agree. Like we agree like on that. We agree on that.
Nate, they did. Don't Al Horford. Don't bring him into this. He's a very different player. Robert Williams, I think, is definitely a level above some of these guys, and I think his quick twitch jumping is really the difference here with him. And he's
Yeah,
also, at least when healthy, able to switch a little bit better. But like
yeah.
I think that one he's pretty. I think he's unique. But Jared Allen is not Robert Williams, and it maybe if you guys want to argue that point
Robert
too.
Williams, Robert Williams, in my opinion, does more
But
defensively than.
again, Robert Williams, 28th pick in the draft. That's my point. I'm okay. Like again, I didn't say don't draft Mark Williams. I said draft him in the 20s, is what I said.
Like I don't like yeah no I agree. Like Robert Williams is just like he's just a completely different animal. Like he to me he's probably worth more than Jared Allen
Yeah, and the
because
other thing is,
I just
yeah,
think
no, he definitely is
he's
worth more than Jared
more.
Allen, and yet he's making 12 million a year for the next 4 years.
Who should have been way
Yes,
higher.
yeah. So he should have been higher, Nate. But like,
Yeah. Oh,
it's
him.
also
Yeah.
it's a odds game, right? Because you're drafting those guys with certainty, right? So like if obviously if I know how everyone's gonna turn out, then you can rearrange them, right? But you're fucking guessing, right? You're throwing shit at a dartboard. So not knowing what the player's gonna turn out, I'm not drafting a big dude who probably will be able to play off the floor. Like you can say whatever you want about Jared Allen. I guarantee you, if the Cavs ever get competitive, Jared Allen's gonna be on the bench in the fourth quarter. Mobley's gonna move to center.
That's just how the NBA is. Honestly, that's just how the NBA is now. Like
I don't think
I
we're
don't
making
know.
headway on this like at all.
We're not. No, we're
I don't
not.
even get what we're talking about entirely. Like,
I thought we were. I thought we were talking about.
this is kind of
Oh,
turned into like center rankings, and so it sounds like Gobert's is way lower than these guys.
Yep.
Which I honestly think that you guys are underestimating his defensive impact, but I'm even like fine with that. Whatever, however you want to word these guys. The point is that if Jared Allen was making 40 million, we don't want him, right?
Horford and Williams can play on the floor in the finals, but Mobley and Jared Allen
Mobley,
can.
yes, correct. Mobley and Allen cannot, correct. I don't know what to say past that. You'll have like Horford is a much better offensive player. Like Mobley can't really do much on offense, honestly. Like Robert Williams, like
You gotta give your
also
reasoning,
like
though. You gotta give your reasoning, though.
yeah, I'm
They can't
saying
play
it.
together. All right, my fault.
Like, no, I just said like Horford is Horford is your Mobley. Yeah, but Mobley's not like a good offensive player yet. If you're saying can he be one, sure, but like he's not a great shooter. He's not nearly the offensive player right now that Horford is. You can argue that I'm not into like Allen probably. Yeah, not yet. Sure. Yeah. Okay. I'm not talking about anything. I'm saying right now, right? I don't know what to say. If you're trying to project his offensive game, I don't know what to say past that, right? Like Horford's Horford now, right? So Horford and Allen could, yes, Horford and Allen could be. Again, the key part here is that center at is underscore. It's pretty much Horford and underscore. It does not matter who the center is. Is the point?
All right. Anyway,
No, but Nate, okay. In that scenario, fine. If he was on the Celtics, yeah, maybe he'd be in the fourth. I'm saying, for the so he could play. The other thing is that Horford shoots better than Mobley, right? So if you're telling me that I don't think Mobley and Jarrett Allen can play together in the fourth, so you're kind of mixing up these things. Like Horford is the thing that makes these lineups work. It's not the Robert Williams part. Yeah, he's gonna be OD. I don't know how to say that, like, right? Like, okay, yeah, I guess all these, like, Precious Achua is gonna be an ISO god. He's gonna whatever. Like, okay, like, I don't know how to talk about things like that. I'm
it's hard
saying,
to predict. Yeah, predicting the
but
future.
again, but my point is generally that literally Allen is not the factor here. It's Mobley, right? If Mobley can shoot, then it works, right? If it doesn't, then who are you gonna choose? You're gonna choose Mobley over Allen, right? Therefore, Mobley takes Allen's spot. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, Allen could play with Horford, Mobley could play with Horford, but like, literally, what are we saying here then? Horford is a fucking amazing player. That's what we're saying there, right? So,
All right, let's get back on. Whatever topic. So, what will we even talk?
we had a topic?
I thought. Well, how do we start that? We
No, I agree.
literally.
No, we did have a topic, so go ahead.
Bro, I just watched Jared Allen and Mobley give Harden hell in the PNR. You saying BS, man? Like Anthony
Anyway.
Davis played in the finals.
All
of
right, we're talking about the draft.
I think that pushes towards more MP's points. Like, oh, centers are kind of expendable.
Literally, what you're telling me there is Anthony
Right.
Davis is amazing. That's what you're saying. Jared, like, Mobley's amazing. I'm not like they're obviously a good defense, man. Like you're talking like I love Brooke Lopez, okay? So like I'm not trying to say Jared Allen can't be on the floor defending Harden. Like you guys are saying things I'm not saying. We were talking about spending a lot on centers is what we were saying, and drafting centers really high, and I don't want to do that. And Jared Allen is a good example of a 23 overall pick. Like I don't like that seems about right. Um, what's it called? Rudy Gobert, 20th overall pick, like Robert Williams, 20th overall pick. That's where I want to draft these types of centers. But like, I don't want to draft Jalen Duren in like 11th overall. I've seen him. Like, Mark Williams, I don't want to draft that high. Like, I don't want. I just don't want to do it. And see, the other thing about that contract is if you told me Jared Allen's making 20 million next year, I can live with that. Jared Allen for 5 fucking years, and now I have to, and that means you're locking up him next to Mobley. Man, good luck, bro. And the other thing is like, yeah, Mobley can shoot, I guess, but you're pretty much like forcing him to now. Like, so if he does or doesn't, whatever, now you're really dependent on it, and so like you're not letting him like be in the paint as much and stuff like that. And he obviously you can have go like high low stuff. There's lots of ways they play offense, but like you're forcing him to play this way. That's not ideal. Take Kevin Knox of the world. Yeah, but Nate, dude, it's about gambling, right? So if you're saying I want a guaranteed player that's gonna be uh like he's gonna be guaranteed has like JaVale McGee, right? I agree with you. Like there's certainty, and that's a good argument for taking some of these players higher, right? But literally, no team would have good players if they didn't take a risk, right? Like not everybody takes Devin Booker, right? You take Devin Booker because you believe in what he can do. There's a very high likelihood that he doesn't get there, right? And for most players, they don't. But you will never have a good team if you don't take a risk on those types of players. and that's the only way you get them, right? Like you draft Kawhi, right, and he turns into that, right? And you hope, right? There's no like you have to use the draft is the only way you get players like that, and the other way you would be free agency or trade, but you already pretty much have to have another one of these players, right? In order for someone to want to come here. So then, in order to get that guy, you almost exclusively have to do it through the draft. Therefore, I'm okay flailing on Kevin Knox, and if it misses, fine. But like Mark Williams? Okay, I'll have him. Cool. If you're telling me I'm the Celtics and I take Mark Williams, okay, that's different. But like, it's still like Mark Williams on his own. Mark is fine, but again, we've talked about like the rest of the team is really what's going to determine this, and the defense is really what matters. And the defense you can kind of get on some of these like lower end centers if you really like stretch it out, right? So that's kind of what I don't know. Like, and even Robert Williams is making like 12 million a year. That's a great deal, right? And for 4 more years, and like that's literally for a center. You got the 20th overall. That's the type of shit. Like that's what makes like all these competitive teams don't even have a center half the time. So like, anyways, I think this is probably a good place to like, go to whatever our other topics are. I'm kind of just talking in the chat now.
No,
Yeah.
that's.
So
I think that's it for the draft. I think we finished everything.
Yeah, so let's talk
Yeah.
a little bit about the other stuff then.
Do we have time for the other stuff?
no,
Yeah, why not? I feel like we just should.
do we?
If anything, if anything we cut it in half.
No, I mean, wait. What stuff do you have, J Flight, on your list?
We like. I mean,
We can talk about J-Fight stuff, whatever you guys want.
Because we talked about the Kings, we talked about quickly. We didn't talk about the Pistons. I'm saving this stuff for tomorrow because I don't got
there's
that.
no.
I don't got the energy to be as toxic as I want to be.
I really like. We just talked about a 7-foot center for like an hour,
Yeah.
and I don't really feel like talking about another 7-foot center for another 30 minutes.
That's a fair point. That's fair.
Absolutely.
Well, I think
It's
the
like
general
I was gonna troll.
Ivy to the Kings is interesting.
Eric Gordon potential.
I was gonna troll.
I wouldn't go for it honestly.
Like, I just want people to know that I was gonna troll on this Pistons topic, but like now I don't because people are gonna take it like way too seriously and think I'm actually serious. But so
Yeah, I'm just reading the comments a little bit, so maybe let's finish this off a little bit. So like I know, so like the vertical spacing thing, like I know that obviously, but like again, vertical spacing is not some like a lot of centers can do that. Is the thing. So like I'm not trying to say that role is not important. I'm saying there's a lot of players who can do that role, even if it's not quite as good as Jarrett Allen. You can still like you're seeing like all these teams that don't even have a center have some like JaVale McGee is like half the player that some of these dudes are, but like he's able to get it done right on the Lakers, on the on the Suns, and on the Warriors. So like name some players. What name some players? You what? I don't forget what we're saying.
I don't even know. Well, I don't know what that means. Name some players like an Eric Gordon trade.
Yes, but that's kind of my point though. Like my point, but because King So like what you're saying there to me is that the level of impact that center has is not even dependent on him. Is what you're telling me there, right? Because you're saying that some of these bad players can kind of become fine, right? Then you end up being like the other players are really what makes the center really stand out, right? Like Dwight Powell is able to be pretty good because you got like a. Yeah, I'm not trying to downplay his impact. I think he's a very impactful player. Like
I think we're down. I'm
yeah,
gonna be honest.
I think Allen is good.
Yeah, I think we're downplaying Gobert's defense.
Yes, I do think that's true. But I don't mean to downplay Allen. My point to Allen is simply that it's not that he's replaceable, that you get someone who's just as good at him or something like that. But it's the things like I have Chris Paul. Like ultimately, to be a really competitive team, the things you need are all these other things. Like you need the playmakers, you need the scoring, and all that stuff happens from the non-center, right? And then we're saying that we can kind of make these guys something that's better than they kind of are on their own. Um, because of the fact that Booker's so good and Chris Paul's so good. So then, is it really worth? Like, I'd almost rather have a worse player at some point, especially who's making like a minimum or like best case or like making 5 million or whatever he's making. Nerlens Noel, I love Nerlens Noel. Like, you can kind of makeshift that role, and like all of a sudden, Steph Curry, KD make Kevon Looney really fucking good, and yeah, but yeah, Nate, I agree with you. I think everybody would agree with you there. But team building doesn't work like that. You got to get the Luca first, and then once you get it, you have to get in a position to get that guy. So I agree that so now with the Mavs roster, they should get a center who's like maybe if they got to a center that 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 was at that level, then what you're saying is that that will make them they'll take him to the next level. But he's not the difference maker, right? I agree with you that he's he would make the team better. But at the same time, the Mavs were almost in the conference finals with Dwight Powell, right? So even like a marginal upgrade on Dwight Powell, whatever you think that is, not let's say it's something in between him and Jarrett Allen or Gobert or whatever, then I definitely agree that that will be a better team.
I think my point.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
the
don't know.
draft stuff is
I don't.
different.
I don't, I didn't. We kind of avoided. We kind of just went away from my point that I said. I basically said height matters at center in certain situations. That's
Yeah,
basically what I said.
yeah,
And then, and then, I don't know. Yeah.
yeah. Nate, if you're telling me you have a set team and I just need a center and I want to get a player, then yeah, draft Mark Williams. I'm all for that. If you're a team that is like most of these other teams that doesn't really have like if you're um the Hawks is a good example of uh I wouldn't draft a center if I was the Hawks. I would draft all these other players and then I can kind of makeshift that center role because Trey Young would get me there. So like you kind of have to take the risks. Like literally all these players are good because they were drafted at some point and someone took a risk on them, and they're also bad and someone took a risk and drafted on them. There might not be the best example, but like I'm thinking about like all these other teams that Trey, at least the Hawks have like actual stars, so then maybe getting a good center might make a more of a difference there. But yeah, like Onyeka Okongwu and Clint Capella in the same one. I don't know about that, but like I like Okongwu. I don't think they needed Capella. Maybe that's a good example. But it's really what it comes down to is they already had Trey. But most of these other teams don't have like one of these top 15 players in the past or are in the league. So the only way you're gonna get these players is by drafting them, and the only way you're gonna do that is by sometimes whiffing, right? You get a Dennis Smith Jr., right? And I would, like, Dennis Smith Jr. seems like a player who I don't know. I totally get why someone would have drafted him. Obviously, he flamed out. What are you gonna do, right? Um, but you need to take the risk on some of these players. And so if you're a team that's already so like yeah, so like if you have Lamelo, I think it would be more worthwhile for Charlotte to get another wing player for me personally because I still think that they can get. I think their problem has been that haven't had even like a comp like a like high level center like a defensive center too. They've had mainly offensive. Like they've had PJ Washington and Montrezl Harrell. So if you, I think you can. I can understand them getting Mark Williams. Then that's different. That's because they already have that. Like I still think they would be better off. Like if they get Mark Williams, they become maybe like a playoff team, and then maybe they're probably gonna lose in the first round, and then, so then like whatever you might think of that, it's up to you, I guess. But like I think that if they got like Gordon Hayward, obviously, and then they added another player, now you're saying like, because like even if you look at the Celtics, right? It's the Smart plus Jalen plus Jason Tatum plus Horford. It's just a lot of offensive players. And if you look at the Warriors, it's a lot of people who could do stuff, right? And it's not the center. In the center, you can kind of make stuff there, right? So, but if you're saying like you have everything else set and the center really would make a difference, then yeah, I totally get that because he's very impactful. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Like I would rather trade Hayward or whatever and then get other pieces and then find a center or even trade for a center. Yeah, like yeah, I totally get Mark Williams to Charlotte. That makes sense to me. I'm not trying to like shit on that pick. I get the fit, but I also think that ultimately I think they're gonna need a little bit more talent, and I'm not sure. Um, like I think they if they had so like take a look at that roster, right? So Lamelo, Bridges. I also love Terry Rozier, right? So Bridges, PJ. I think they'd be much better off getting another wing and getting that like core nucleus, like just like fucking like a lot of. But what centers out there they give up pieces for? Um, See, I don't even mind the idea of giving up like future picks for a center that might be higher up. But if you're telling me like Hornets in this case have a 13th pick, I can understand using that on Mark Williams, I guess. Nate, there's an intermediate here though. Like I'm not saying I don't want to use Mason Plumlee, but I think you can find somebody who's like good enough on defense. Like what about like they trade for like Clint Capella or something like that? I don't know. Like I would give up like a future like top 15 protected pick for because I'll be it's kind of like drafting one, which is which is different. Then they're out of money.
Well,
Look,
I mean,
I'm just gonna put it this way. I don't
like,
think. Sorry, say that again.
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, they are out of money, but I mean, shit, like, something.
That's good
Like,
picking.
I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I'll
they
say it this
gotta
way.
get a good center.
I don't think adding Mark Williams is gonna be some crazy thing for them, and I think they're gonna definitely improve in the regular season, which is a big deal. Like centers make a big deal in the regular season. And so, like, I agree that if you're in a position where, like, even like Robert Williams is a good example of the Celtics had a good foundation, they get a center to like supplement that further, and then now you have and now you're in like that makes sense to me. Um, and so, but if I don't know if Mark Williams, if you, so that to me that says that you think they have enough talent already to make it like really far, and you think Mark Williams takes them over the top, and he's also unique relative to a center next year or a center, previous years or something like that. Because like actually, Nate, I'll pose this to you also. Maybe this is gonna go on forever. But so there are other centers this year, right? So I get your point. So I don't know if you know like a lot about this. I'm assuming you kind of know a little bit about the draft class, but there's like Christian Koloko, for example. Could you do you think he'd be approximately what Mark Williams is? Like, what do you think the difference is there? Same idea, right? Young center, low amount of money, guaranteed years, right? What do you think about that? He's a great shot blocker. He can, good lob catcher, good catch radius, all this stuff. Some offensive upside. Right. Yeah, yeah, nobody would argue there. Like Williams definitely more NBA ready for sure. But like, yeah, no, I don't want Capella to Charlotte too. I was trying to make a point of I think like if you could if you're looking for that last piece, I think it makes sense to get like literally Jarrett Allen is a good example, right? All these other teams that have centers trading like literally you guys are acting like Jarrett Allen was on the Nets, right? And all of a sudden now he's on the it's like you could get that player, right? So and easily, and those types of guys are either being signed or traded all the time. So I'll give up like a lottery protected pick if I have the rest of the team. Nate, it wasn't just for Harden though. The Allen part was a separate part though. Like the Allen, no. He that was part of the Allen trade, but the Cavs part of the Allen trade was different, right? It was part of. I'm not saying it wasn't part of the Harden. So Allen would have gone back to the Rockets, right? And instead he went to the Cavs, right? So like, how did that happen? What is the trade that got it there, right? Because like the trade of getting um, it was all part of the same trade. But like the way they got him there, man, I'm looking up the trade exactly to see everything that was involved. It was like a first round pick, uh, Torian Prince. Okay, the Nets sent Jarrett Allen, and Karis LeVert. And then Karis LeVert, wait, what happened with Oladipo or something? He got flipped too, right? Was that this year? Maybe I'm mixing up things. Wait, hold on. So Rockets didn't want to give him the contract.
Yeah, Ryder can just edit it from here. Like literally just cut like the last hour. Yeah, just have him cut the last hour. Like before we talked about this low key.
For Harden, that's different. Harden. And the chat's getting so small. In the James Harden trade, yes, but the dude, how would he was involved in James Harden trade, but why would somebody just give up Jarrett Allen though, right?
I mean,
You guys are saying exactly what I was saying. He was part of the James Harden trade,
I
but
have
like,
to
so if he, yeah, go ahead, Triple H.
so I have to argue because I think what it was is at the time Harden's value was kind of like
It has nothing.
obviously, but obviously his value was crazy. So
Yeah,
like
yeah. So
I think that
they gave up everything, right? So they gave up so
yeah,
the
but here's
Houston goes to them and says, okay, we'll give you Harden, but you have to give us all these picks plus we want Jarrett Allen, we want Karis LeVert, we want this, we want this,
but
but
there was other teams,
we also
there
don't
are other
want
teams,
Jarrett Allen, right? But he needs to be
yeah,
part of this trade,
right,
right?
but there were other teams involved. So
Right.
it wasn't just
So
like a
the
straight
trade,
flip.
exactly the part of this I'm talking about is okay, we don't want Allen, but he needs to be part of this because he has value, right? the 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 him to Cleveland from the Rockets part was about like a first round pick pretty much. And so it ends up saying that the Rockets are pretty much like getting a first round pick in exchange for the Jarrett Allen part of of that deal. That's how that turned out. So obviously it was part of the Harden deal. But like the Harden deal is not the fact it was Harden is not what made Jarrett Allen go to the Rockets. It's the fact that first of all, if Jarrett Allen was that good, you'd think that the Rockets want to keep him. But that's even a side note. Second part is that, and I agree with them. I agree with them doing what they did, honestly. But the fact that they pretty much gave up the Allen part of that trade, which they got for the Harden, they just gave that up for a first, right?
Oh, was that for me? I mean, I don't. I mean, it's hard to say who is for who because of like everything that went into the trade, really. Because, like you said, Allen was supposed to technically be a Rocket, but then they added the Cavs, right? And it was
Yeah.
just like, yeah. So it's hard. So you can't really say like, oh, he was for blank, but at the same time, he technically was because it was. So he was supposed to go to the Rockets, but then I don't know. It's hard to um it's hard to like decrypt it if that's even the right word.
But like my general point is that you kind of get this player. Is my point.
Yeah, you can get like yeah, you can get a player that plays really good defense and is able to hit a hook shot. Um, yeah,
I forgot. LeVert went to the Pacers too.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was gonna lead into. Is like that's basically what I was saying. Is like there was so much involved that I was just like who? Yeah. What's with the hook shot? Can he not? Allen can hit a hook shot. Wait, what am I? Wait. I mean, there's centers that can hit a hook shot that aren't seen as like not. It's like Allen's not the only center that can hit a hook shot. My point is like there are centers that can hit that little hook shot. I'm not saying okay, we're not doing this. We're gonna end this because people are gonna think that I think Jarrett Allen's overrated, which I do not. Jarrett Allen is a good.
Me neither.
We gotta end. We gotta end this because people think that I think he's bad. I don't think he's bad. Like I don't. Like I Jarrett Allen is good. If it really means that much, I'll tweet it out. I'll just say I'll tweet Jarrett Allen is good. That's all. I'll fucking tweet it. Like
All right, so we agreed to this. So we agreed to disagree about the value of a center in the league.
I don't even think we're disagreeing.
I think you guys are.
I don't really think we are.
We're agreeing on accident.
I don't think we are. I don't think we're disagreeing. Because, like, I'm saying Jarrett Allen's really good, very valuable, definitely impactful on the team. If he's on a team, the team's better. Now, right? But
I feel like you're saying that getting centers is easier than getting a skilled player.
Right?
Yeah. Well, what's the role of a center?
Wait, so you don't think that?
Center. Not fucking Draymond. Draymond, I don't consider a center. He plays the center position, but he's not a like. I'm going to use the word again. I'm not even going to use the word.
But you're saying you can just plug in JaVale McGee instead of Jarrett Allen?
Okay, if you're in a position where you can go, like you have everything set and you can go and get Mark Williams, go get Mark Williams, no questions. However, like literally 75% of the league is teams that need like the skill players that get you to the championship, right? Like they get you, like they're really the ones propelling you there. So I'd rather risk it on them, even if I flame out, like whatever, they shit it, like it's not an exact science, man. Like anybody who thinks you gotta make a choice in this shit and it's gotta work out exactly, like they're just bugging. Like every single team flames out on their picks, and that's just a factor of life, man. So I don't think like JaVale McGee is just like a 1-to-1 replacement. But if you're saying I get JaVale McGee plus like 2 or 3 really, really skilled players on the perimeter, or even Jarrett Allen, and I lose one of those guys, and I have the other 2, then I want the 3. And I'll plug in whoever I gotta plug in. That's what I'm saying.
Name the top 5 centers in the league or in the draft? Oh, in the league. In the league.
In the league.
Oh, I actually made a positional rankings, man.
Alright, so for
you guys go first.
Or we're talking about if we're talking about the league, it's Jokic, Embiid, however you want to flip that.
Yeah. Jokic, Embiid, and then
top 5 is actually kind of easy, I think. I'm assuming like maybe the order doesn't matter as much.
No, then you go then, because I'm trying to think off the dome right now.
Yeah. In my rankings, I had Jokic, Embiid. You could argue which one as tier 1.
Yeah.
Then I had Bam, Rudy, tier 2, and then I had Cat, tier 3. And I think I would accept like Ayton, Robert Williams. I had Brook Lopez after that, Evan Mobley, Al Horford. I think I would take Horford over Mobley now, but potential-wise, I can understand why you'd want Mobley. And then I had Miles Turner, Jarrett Allen right after them. So Jarrett Allen's the same as Brook Lopez. So I love Brook Lopez. So like Jarrett Allen is clearly I value him. So those are the top 5 right now.
He said Jokic, Embiid. I'm so tired. I'm sorry.
Jokic, Embiid, Bam, Gobert, Cat.
I should say Cat over Gobert, but
yeah, I'm thinking.
Sure, that's fine too.
But it's like, yeah, that's basically fine. Like that's fine. Like I'm not gonna. It's not really.
I know, man. That's his opinion. He really fucks with Gomez.
5 is fine. That 5 is fine. Top 5 small forward. I don't even know what the fuck a small forward is anymore.
Okay, I'll list them out for you. So this is where all my wasted time has come in handy. Okay, I have all this shit already. Ice, do you remember me doing this in the middle of the year?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just gonna list small forwards. I'm not listing more. I'm just trying to tell you guys the names. Okay. DeMar DeRozan, Brandon Ingram, Jaylen Brown, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum, Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Luka, Kawhi. Those are probably the potentials for top 5.
All right, top 5 small forward. Bron gets default number 1.
So KD, LeBron.
Yeah, KD second.
Okay, that's interesting.
Luke is apparently.
Okay, whatever. You can put what do you want him as? Point guard?
Luke is apparently a guard, so I don't like listing
exactly.
a guard, but he is, so yeah.
See, I generally try and position players based on what they're like defending most of the time, like or some combination of that. Like Tomorrow is kind of like
DeMar's a small forward.
He's like a small forward. He's like a small forward power forward thing. Yeah, I don't even know. Like I don't even care about the positions. I generally call it like wings versus forwards versus centers versus guards. I think it's probably.
Pretty sure DeMar's played every position except center.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's how. Like, I don't know. I don't know what you want us to say there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you could take like, I'm just listing the guys out. I didn't order the. I'll tell you my small forward rankings in a second. Like I'm trying to let them get a chance to.
So I would probably say Braun, KD, Kawhi, healthy, obviously.
Yeah.
The last two are tough because I really like Butler, but I also like Tatum. So I'd probably say Butler, Tatum, or Tatum, Butler. It's basically a tie. Yeah.
All right, so we got Brown, we got Durant. Actually, no, I lied.
Butler, Tatum, George.
No, I lied.
Are we? If we're not including Luka, then not Luka. LeBron,
I
Kawhi, Tatum. I have my. You want me to say my order?
Yeah, you say yours. I'll say mine after.
Are we including Luka or not?
If you want to
no.
look at.
I'm gonna add him to this list. You guys can decide to take him out or whatever. So I have it as, and so I put it in tiers so I could understand arguments in this. So, I have it as KD, Kawhi, LeBron. I could understand any order of that, and I'm assuming Kawhi's healthy. Then I have Luka, Paul George, Tatum, Butler, Middleton. So I'll separate into tiers. Sorry. So KD, Kawhi, LeBron is 1 tier. Luka is 2. Paul George, Tatum is 3. Jimmy Butler's 4. Middleton's 5. And then Jaylen Brown, Brandon Ingram, DeMar DeRozan are 6. That's the tiering that I have.
All right. So for the 5 players individually, it's Braun, Kawhi, Durant, Tatum, and then PG or PG.
I like how we had different lists, though. I actually like how we had different lists. Thank God.
I think there's a lot of especially if we're including Luka. Like I don't exactly know this. I also did this I did this in like February or something. Do you remember? Like
yeah, it was
it was like March or something, or I don't even remember. So
was it around the same time you made up your own like your own statistic?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not gonna lie.
It was around the trade deadline you did that.
I'm not gonna lie. You're gonna have to show me how you did that because I feel like there was the position. What was it? It was like the position stuff, right?
Oh, the player archetypes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I finally fine tuned it. By the way, I got it. So it's I can now just count. If you give me all the player stats, I can say primary ball handler, secondary ball handler, shot creator, slasher, spot up shooter, movement shooter, rolling big, stretch big, versatile big, I think. And there's also separate defensive roles. And so I've gotten to the point where I can classify that now, which is kind of cool. And it's pretty accurate.
Who's the best player for? Who's the best player compared to
At
that?
what?
You did it per position. I mean per role. I mean.
Oh, I haven't done that kind of stuff yet. I haven't really used the rules too much yet. But like I've gotten the important part for me was defining the rules, because then the statistical expectations you have for them are much more dependent on what the role is supposed to be doing, and you want to compare players who are like each other.
Sure.
So that was the biggest hurdle, and I think I've gotten that. So now the rest of this will be pretty easy. So, what, Braun, Kawhi, KD, Tatum, PG. Yeah, I think that's good.
Tatum over PG. The only reason
Yeah, I had
over
PG over Tatum.
The only reason Tatum's over PG is just because the finals run. That's it. That's literally.
Yeah, I totally yeah. PG, Tatum, whichever one is fine. I think those two should clearly be below the other three. And then in 2 years, not happening, bro. I'm sorry.
You need Jesus Christ.
Yeah, a lot of prayer. Hopefully.
What the hell is that? No, don't do this.
Stuns. I had to. I didn't want to. But it's like he's 24 and led his team to the finals. Like,
yeah,
you got to. You got to put him over PG at that point.
I'm not gonna lie.
I'm not saying he's better than him. I think he's better than him. But I'm just saying.
I'm not gonna lie. I thought about Paul George and I was like, wait a minute, why would I do that? Why would I not say Butler? Like, I don't know. I feel like Butler, like,
see, Butler Paul George has been a debate for like literally probably like 7 years or some shit.
That has not been a debate. PG's always
I've
heard such a mix like of the like. Actually, you're right. Actually, most of the time I hear PG over him, but like, especially that year that Butler goes to the finals, everyone's like, "Oh, PG," because that was the same year that he flamed out, right?
No,
and
that's the only thing. That's legitimately the only thing that he had that put Butler over him was the fact that he hit the side of the backboard in Game 7. That's the only reason people were just like, "Oh, Jimmy's better than PG." All of a sudden, I'm just like, "No, he's not. He doesn't have skills like that."
Well, are you saying PG's better than Butler, or are you saying?
I'm saying he's far better than Butler.
Yeah, I'd say he's better than Butler too. But like, Butler has this like intangible thing that it's really hard to put. I've had such a difficult time describing like most Raptors players and then Jimmy Butler, because like it's really strange of like what he does and like how good he is, and I can't really even fully describe what he's good at like entirely. Pretty much the one thing I can say is he's a really really good finisher. And then past that, like, there's lots of really good finishers. What makes him so special? I have no idea. And the one thing I can say is, like, I would love Jimmy Butler on my team. Like, he gives, like, I don't know. I guess he's not really the offensive explosion type. But I like I was saying before, I think defense is something that I've kind of really come around on the sense of, I think that really differentiates some of these top teams from, like, the next tier of, like, really good teams. Of like these really really high level defenses are the one like the Heat, the Celtics. Like I don't know how the Heat even made it past the first round, let alone the second round. And it's really because of such a high level defense that they're able to like make do with whatever offense they have. And I think that's really impressive.
All right, two things. One, you think the Hawks should have beat the Heat in the playoffs this year?
No.
Okay. And two.
No, but that's not really saying anything about the Heat though. It's more about the Hawks. There.
All right, two stunts. Kawhi's that ninja, bro. This is really, that's what Anza about it. He's just, I just think he's better. Like, Kawhi was getting triple teamed in the finals and was just scoring at will.
Yeah, Kawhi's just like I don't know, man. I have such a KD, Kawhi and stuff. It's kind of they're both so good.
I'm biased towards Kawhi personally because I like him and like. Yeah, that's it. There ain't no other reason. I like Kawhi over other people.
Yeah, I mean the only reason like it's tough saying Kawhi because for me I like Kawhi. It's tough saying Kawhi because like he's injured a lot, but I mean healthy, yeah, he's up there.
The thing is like he gets injured a lot, but his production never falls.
Oh no, I agree, absolutely. That's why it's just like if he was more healthy, like he would probably I may put him top 2 healthy if if he gets a ring in LA, but I don't think that's happening. It may. I don't know.
Oh wait, sorry, my
Top
fault.
two, yeah, top two if he wins a ring on the Clippers.
Top two player
Like
all
now,
time.
not all time, not
Okay,
all
okay.
time.
Oh, just in the league.
Like,
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I think he's saying Northeast Conference, right? So I'm assuming
What?
I think he's
Clippers.
wait top
What?
players on the
What are we
Clippers.
talking about? No. What? I said top two in the league if he wins a ring with the Clippers, or just with the Clippers.
Yeah, if you
I don't even
Okay.
care to I don't even really care to rank these two. I think they're both on the same tier to the point that I just think they're so good that I don't really care who's better than the other. I'd be very happy with both. Like most of these other players, I want one more than the other, whatever. So
well, TJ McConnell rings a winner. Are you serious?
Probably like 200th. What kind of question?
like,
I don't know.
that doesn't change for me. You're talking about like accolades wise where he ranks, or
Yeah, that's why I said Clippers. I was just saying what team he's on, but I kind of just said team he's on.
MP, can you answer this question? Rank top two players in the NEC last year.
dude, I don't. Hold on. I don't know. I don't really watch college like that, so I gotta fucking look up these conferences.
Peter Kiss, and then whoever. I don't
Should
know.
the Lakers
Peter
trade
Kiss,
or
Kiss,
keep
and Peter
Westbrook?
Kiss's best friend. Final answer.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, got him. Let's go.
Uh,
Trade or keep Russell Westbrook to the Hornets. I mean,
what do you get from the Hornets though?
Hayward. I don't know. I just said a random name. I just said a random name before anyone freaks out on me again. But I said Hayward, and then maybe like.
I think you just keep him, play the contract out, and then just try to swing free agency again.
This is an NBA draft people who don't want college. What? College over NBA? Dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. There are times where, like, I'm not gonna lie, college basketball is better. March Madness, I love March Madness. March Madness is better than the NBA Finals sometimes. Like, it really is.
Yeah, because it's just one game. Where's Steph rank all time? Not 10 or 9 or 8 or 7 or 6 or 5 or 4 or 3, 2 or 1. We'll do that tomorrow because I don't have the mental energy for that today.
Yeah.
I will say that. I think Peter Kiss is in the top two, just from looking at these players. So that's good.
A bunch of trash 80 overall players all the time. I hate that shit. Yeah, nah.
Dude, I don't even have an 80 players I hate list.
Steph top 5. Stop the cap.
Steph's like.
Hold up. I can't show them the picture. Actually, no. I probably can't show them the picture. Hold up.
Is that like currently top 5 or like all time? Because you're
Yeah,
saying all time.
He's talking all time. He's talking all time, and I'm thinking, fuck no.
Give me a list of your top 5.
Someone earlier in chat said Magic's
better. Give me a list of your
all-time.
all-time.
I'm the one who said that, Nate.
Because I need to see something. Magic better than Curry? I don't know.
Better than Curry or is higher rated than Curry?
He's greater than Curry.
Greater in like a holistic sense?
Just better. Like just overall better.
No, better and greater are different to me.
Better in skill.
Who's the better basketball player? Who's the more skilled basketball player? Steph Curry. Who's greater?
I'll be there,
I
ASAP.
don't look at stuff.
Sorry about that. This is a top 10 for that has Steph in it. So I'm assuming your top 5 would be similar to this. How?
Kareem?
He put Braun over MJ.
Okay, so
this is a
okay, so
this is a horrendous list, by the way.
Is this the list? Is this the list?
That's the list I'm gonna put on the tweet when I fucking actually discuss this.
Oh, okay, okay. So I don't. Can you pull that back up?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I gotta wait for the stream to load.
Braun, MJ,
Okay, so I saw Braun. Yeah, okay. So Braun, MJ, Kareem. I don't. That's not bad. Like that's fine. Shaq may be a little bit too low for me. Hakeem, in my opinion, Hakeem is probably top 2 center all time. And then I don't even know the rest, honestly.
I don't even know how to say top 2. I guess there's what, Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain, Kareem.
I just forgot. I just realized Bill and Will are not on this list, bro. All right.
I mean,
So,
skill-wise, Will is like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
some of these all-time lists, for me, it just really depends on what you're talking about. Like, cause like all-time, like a lot of these guys are on like the Mount Rushmores and stuff, like MJ.
Oh, time out.
Bird,
So you like that
Magic.
list? Oh man. Oh god.
Who?
So you like that list that I just posted, that I put up there? Please tell me no.
I think you said what I said. I think you said what I said.
Yeah, I think so, Josh. But like, I don't know exactly what we're
like
talking
Hakeem,
about.
top 2 center all times. Oh yeah, nah, I agree with that. All right, cool, good shit.
Yeah, I said so.
Hold up, before you continue your quote, does Russell boot Hakeem out in greatness since? Yes, but it's not because of the ranks. It's because the shit he did off the court. You can continue.
So my top 2 centers is probably Kareem and Hakeem. Shaq's out of the top 2 because I feel like.
Wait, but you're skipping like so. Wilt, you're saying Hakeem's over him?
Like it's tough because like the people Wilt played against. Yeah, he played against Bill.
Okay.
But like.
Okay, so, no, that's a fair argument. Okay. And then you're also putting him over Russell too.
If you took Wilt and it's like in today's era and it was like which is so hard to like compare because everyone knows there was no 3-point line back then. It's just like I don't know. It's like top 5 list, top 10 list. I hate them because it's like unrealistic. Like Jerry West
of all time. Yeah, he was fucking
Jerry
up.
West,
he was fucking up Shaq.
Jerry West.
David Robinson.
If Jerry West.
He had Rillo on D-Rob, bro. Oh my gosh.
Jerry West. If there was a 3-point line when Jerry West was playing, Jerry West would be a whole different story.
Bro, I hate that efficiency stat where it's like, oh, he shot 30%. Like, he only took 2s because there's no 3s. So it's like anywhere he shoots.
Top 10. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Nate, I think you're talking about like who's the better player, and I think most of these greatest of all time lists aren't really like about that. I guess they're more about because it's really hard to compare eras. I think they're about like partially like what they did for the sport, and then it's accolades, and then it's like how good were they for their time. And so because like I think no matter like as long as I live, I don't think Bird, Magic, MJ, I guess.
Yes,
I don't think those.
The world keeps evolving, so we have
those 4 are never gonna move because of the whole narrative behind them.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry. Jamal Crawford is cooking like a good majority of NBA superstars in the 80s. Jamal Crawford's cooking.
Yeah, I mean, like if we're going talent-wise, and which is kind of I guess what we're talking about, and not making it relative to the era. If you make it relative to the era, then some of these older players will go up. But like,
you also have to give context too.
Dude, I totally agree with that last one. Drew Holiday would be all-time great player. Yeah, I totally agree with that. But yeah, I totally agree. It's just
Nate, that's wild.
To be fair, Nate,
that is not wild. That is 100% like that is definitely like at least some validity, even if it's not entirely true.
They would call him like he would be like, oh, he's like Sidney Moncrief but better or some shit like that. Yeah. For Drew Holiday, yeah. I mean, I'm obviously diminishing it a little bit, but yeah.
No, I'm not gonna lie. We're gonna have to cut that out, Nate. And you know what? Yeah, you may have to edit that what you just said out. that Salem Witch
Well, we have that
thing.
conversation.
That's
So you're saying,
Dude,
Josh?
my
Are you
eyes
saying that? Are you saying can the game change anymore? Is that what you're asking, Josh?
are 4
Like,
point line.
have we taken it to like the extreme? Is that? Because I guess the whole idea would be like spacing or whatever.
Because they can just change rules and just add a 4 point line if they wanted to.
Yeah, the rule changes. The rule changes is a big part of what makes RR now different. Like the 3 point line, 3 seconds in the paint,
The defense,
zone
yeah.
rules. They added a bunch of rules. Even fuck it, man. Even for like 2016, I remember James Harden, Mike Conley would take a screen and just like throw a shot up, and it'd be 3 free throws every single time, and that massively inflated like that type of shit. And just the rule change of like not calling that foul on the floor is a big change. So yeah, I mean, and even James Harden doing all this weird foul shit that he did, causing all these rule changes, changed it a lot too. So like, but in terms of like space, okay, so if the rules stay exactly the same, in terms of spacing, I think players could start shooting from. If you got more efficient, I think some of these shooters are getting a little bit more efficient. Oh, the one thing would be, I think centers that are up and coming are getting a lot more skilled. So like you're seeing players like Chet is a good example of. I mean, he's a case where I'm not even talking about the freaky dimensions. Just imagine him like a normal center's body, but doing what he does. Um, that's a good example. Victor Wembanyama, or I don't know. I don't know like the heck how to say his name.
It's my duty
But
to
a lot
please
more
that
skilled
booty.
centers, so that's gonna change the game a lot
Finish it.
because it's gonna
Let's go.
take like
Appreciate that, Josh.
if the whole league turns more like 5 out, or if everybody has that capability, then it changes a little bit of like the whole dynamic in the league. Because I think right now that's a big differentiator from the bottom teams to the top teams. So I think that's one thing.
All right. I am going. Are we ending it? We gotta do our. Let's do our outro at least. So like we're done.
Oh, is
But
this
we
still
can keep talking.
still in the
about it.
podcast?
Like shit.